nasze i...
Jeden, dwa, trzy.
Proszę, że powiedzcie, proszę o zajmowanie miejsc.
Szanowni Państwo, prosimy o zajmowanie miejsc.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seat.
Szanowni Panie i Panowie, witają Was na konferencji Focus on Ukraine.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome all of you to the international conference Focus on Ukraine.
Szanowni Państwo, witamy Państwa na międzynarodowej konferencji Focus on Ukraine.
Konferencja organizowana jest przez Narodową Agencję Wymiany Akademickiej oraz Uniwersytet Gdański pod honorowym patronatem Ministerstwa Edukacji i Nauki. Ja nazywam się Monika Żółkoś i razem z Arturem Kołodziejczykiem-Skowronem i Aleksandrem Zacharczukiem będę miała zaszczyt prowadzić tę konferencję.
The conference is organized by the Polish National Agency for Academic Exchange and the University of Gdansk under the honorary patronage of the Ministry of Education and Science of Poland. My name is Artur Kołodziejczyk-Skowron, together with Monika Żółkoś and Aleksandr Zacharczuk. We will have the honor to chairing this conference.
Konferencję organizowano Polskim Nacjonalnym Agencją z Pytań Akademicznych OBMI, ta Gdańskim Uniwersytetom під почесним патронатом Міністерства освіти і науки Польщі. Мене звати Олександр Захарчук і разом з Монікою Żółkoś і Артуром Kołodziejczykiem-Skowronem ja маю честь відкривати цю конференцію.
Konferencja będzie prowadzona w języku polskim i angielskim. Część z paneli dyskusyjnych będzie przebiegać po polsku, inne w języku angielskim. Dlatego polecamy Państwu korzystanie z tłumaczenia, które jest dostępne cały czas. Język polski na kanale pierwszym, język angielski na kanale drugim oraz język ukraiński na kanale trzecim. Przypominamy również, że konferencja jest transmitowana na żywo na kanałach YouTube Narodowej Agencji Wymiany Akademickiej oraz Uniwersytetu Gdańskiego.
The conference will be in Polish and English. Some panels will be conducted in Polish and some in English. So we recommend you to use the translation which is available all the time. Polish on channel number 1, English on channel number 2 and Ukrainian on channel number 3. Moreover, we would like to kindly remind you that the conference is broadcasting on the YouTube channels of the Polish National Agency for Academic Exchange and the University of Gdansk.
Головними мовами конференції будуть польська та англійська, але наші перекладачі будуть синхронно перекладати виступи учасників протягом всього часу конференції. Рекомендуємо використовувати прилади для перекладу, де переклади будуть доступні на відповідних каналах. Для польської мови канал перший, англійської на каналі другому та української на каналі третьому. Також нагадуємо, що конференція транслюється в прямому ефірі на YouTube каналах НАВА та Gdańskiego Uniwersytetu.
Szanowni Państwo, konferencję otworzą przemówienia organizatorów. Jako pierwszego zapraszam na scenę Jego Magnificencję rektora Uniwersytetu Gdańskiego, pana profesora doktora habilitowanego Piotra Stepnowskiego.
The conference will start with the speeches of the organizers. As the first, I would like to invite to the stage His Magnificence Director of the University of Gdańsk, Professor Piotr Stepnowski.
Пані та панове, почнемо конференцію з промов організаторів. Першого на сцену запрошуємо ректора Gdańskiego університету, професора Петра Степновського.
Szanowni Państwo, przede wszystkim chciałbym bardzo gorąco powitać naszych gości z ukraińskich instytucji naukowych oraz uczelni, uniwersytetów, politechnik, uczelni medycznych, artystycznych, pedagogicznych, rolniczych, ekonomicznych, w końcu technicznych. I teraz uwaga, z Kijowa, Lwowa,
Odessa, Charkiw, Czerkasow, Żytomir, Mariupol,
Iwano-Frankowska, Tarnopola, Dnieprza, Chmielnickiego, Irpina i Krzywego Rogu. Witamy Was bardzo serdecznie. Mam nadzieję, że wymieniłem wszystkie te miasta, które są tutaj dzisiaj reprezentowane, z których przybyli przedstawiciele ukraińskiego świata nauki, ukraińskiego świata szkolnictwa wyższego. Szczególnie gorąco chciałbym przywitać pana profesora Wołodymyra Bugrowa, rektora Państwowego Instytutu imienia Tarasa Szewczenki w Kijowie i wiceprzewodniczącego Związku Rektorów Uczelni Wyższych na Ukrainie.
Council of Rectors of Universities in Ukraine.
Szanowni Państwo, tu na Uniwersytecie Gdańskim mamy taki zwyczaj niepisany monoklasku. Także każdego gościa witamy jednym, ale gromkim oklaskiem w ten sposób. Witam zatem panią profesor Tetianę Kaganowską, rektor Charkowskiego Instytutu Narodowego imienia Wasyla Karazina. Witam naszego przyjaciela, partnera Uniwersytetu Gdańskiego, profesora Wiaczesława Trubę, rektora Odeskiego Uniwersytetu Narodowego imienia Miecznikowa. Witam serdecznie wypróbowanego przyjaciela Uniwersytetu Gdańskiego, pana konsula Ukrainy, pana Aleksandra Podostyja. Szczero witаю, panie konsulu. Witam wiceminister oświaty i nauki Ukrainy do spraw cyfrowego rozwoju, wiceministra oświaty i nauki Ukrainy do spraw cyfrowego rozwoju, cyfrowych transformacji oraz cyfryzacji, pana Dymitro Zawgorodnego. Pan minister połączy się z nami online, ale na pewno słyszał ten gromki monoklask. Szanowni Państwo, witam wiceministra edukacji i nauki, pełnomocnika rządu do spraw rozwoju, międzynarodowienia, edukacji i nauki, pana doktora Tomasza Rzymkowskiego. Witam serdecznie wojewodę pomorskiego, pana Dariusza Drylicha. Witam panią Joannę Wajdę oraz pana Aleksandra Kropiwnickiego, reprezentującego Ministerstwo Spraw Zagranicznych. Serdecznie witam współorganizatora naszego dzisiejszego wydarzenia, pana doktora Dawida Kosteckiego, dyrektora Narodowej Agencji Wymiany Akademickiej. Witam także panią Zofię Sawicką, wicedyrektora NAWA. Szanowni Państwo, chciałbym gorąco przywitać panią Agnieszkę Ratajczak, dyrektora Biura Współpracy Międzynarodowej w Narodowym Centrum Badań i Rozwoju oraz doktora Andrzeja Dybczyńskiego, prezesa sieci badawczej Łukasiewicza. Witam serdecznie pana profesora Macieja Żylicza, prezesa zarządu Fundacji na Rzecz Nauki. A także pana profesora Jerzego Duszyńskiego, doradcę prezesa Polskiej Akademii Nauk. Witam pana doktora Tomasza Szumełdę z Narodowego Centrum Nauki. Witam serdecznie wszystkich rektorów, prorektorów polskich uczelni akademickich na czele z panem profesorem Arkadiuszem Mężykiem, przewodniczącym Konferencji Rektorów Akademickich Szkół Polskich, a przy okazji rektora Politechniki Śląskiej. No nie mogę nie przywitać pana profesora Jerzego Lisa, przewodniczącego Komisji do Spraw Współpracy Międzynarodowej KRASP. Witam wieloletniego przyjaciela naszej uczelni, pana Lwa Zacharyszyna z Europejskiego Centrum Solidarności, byłego konsula Ukrainy w Gdańsku. Witam panią Magdalenę Bramfeld, konsul honorową Królestwa Szwecji. Witam pana Waldemara Siwińskiego, prezesa IREC Observatory on Academic Ranking Excellence, założyciela Fundacji Perspektyw, który przybył wspólnie z panią Bianką Siwińską, mam nadzieję, prezeską Fundacji Edukacyjnej Perspektyw. Szanowni Państwo, witam profesor Maję Kuklę, dyrektor National Science Foundation ze Stanów Zjednoczonych. Oraz panią doktor Emily Boszcik, dyrektor regionu Europa Scholar Rescue Fund z Instytutu Edukacji Międzynarodowej ze Stanów Zjednoczonych. Witam panią Irinę Ferenc, dyrektor Stowarzyszenia Współpracy Akademickiej AKA, a także panią Maję Ayres, kierownika działu Fińskiej Narodowej Agencji do Spraw Edukacji. Serdecznie witam panią Anetę Serżant, kierownik projektów Czeskiej Narodowej Agencji Edukacji Międzynarodowej. Witam pana Gerharda Wolca, dyrektora do spraw współpracy międzynarodowej w szkolnictwie wyższym w Austriackiej Agencji Edukacji i Internacjonalizacji. Witam panią Karlę Zimanową, zastępcę dyrektora Słowackiej Akademickiej Agencji Informacyjnej. Serdecznie chciałbym przywitać również pana profesora Jean-Marca Plenex, koordynatora Aliansu Epicur z Uniwersytetu Strasburgu. Witam pana Hiroyuki Kanzaki z Japan Development Service Corporation. Witam serdecznie przedstawicieli władz rektorskich, naukowczynie i naukowców, studentki i studentów z uczelni z całej Polski i z Ukrainy. Witam wszystkich pozostałych przedstawicieli instytucji zajmujących się pomocą, szeroko rozumianą pomocą wszystkim naszym przyjaciołom z Ukrainy i tym, którzy są w Polsce i tym, którzy wciąż walczą w Ukrainie. Witam, szanowni państwo, przedstawicieli Pomorskiego Urzędu Marszałkowskiego, samorządów, Trójmiasta i innych polskich miast. Witam media oraz osoby, które są z nami na sali, a także tych, którzy uczestniczą w naszej konferencji online. Tu możemy już z monoklasku zrezygnować. Szanowni Państwo, tu siedząc przed chwilą, patrzyłem na ten napis ustawienia tych foteli, które zaraz zasilą nasi wspaniali paneliści i miałem takie swoiste déjà vu. Blisko rok temu zorganizowaliśmy pierwszą konferencję, wówczas Solidarni z Ukrainą, na której rozmawialiśmy o tym, jak mądrze pomagać Ukrainie. Dzisiaj znów chcemy o tym rozmawiać z perspektywy minionego roku, postawić sobie pytania, jakie zadania stoją przed polskim środowiskiem akademickim w zakresie pomocy Ukrainie. Tym razem oczywiście jesteśmy już bogatsi o doświadczenia minionego roku, ale też doświadczenia tej straszliwej i niczym nieusprawiedliwionej wojny. Jednak umocnieni razem w dążeniu do celu, jakim jest włączenie wolnej i niepodległej Ukrainy w obszar europejskiego obszaru badań i europejskiego obszaru szkolnictwa wyższego. Zwrócę się teraz bezpośrednio do naszych przyjaciół z Ukrainy. Za wami, bracia Ukraińcy, rok strasznych i ciężkich walk, rok potwornych doświadczeń, o jakich nigdy nie myśleliśmy, że usłyszymy kiedykolwiek w naszej współczesności. Haniebnie najechani przez brutalną putinowską Rosję, walczycie o każdy kolejny dzień, walczycie przede wszystkim o swoją niepodległość i przyszłość, ale staliście się także, co zawsze warto podkreślać, obrońcami całego wolnego świata. Za waszą ofiarę, za wasze poświęcenie jesteśmy i będziemy zawsze wdzięczni. Szanowni Państwo, spotykamy się tu, na Uniwersytecie Gdańskim, w mieście wolności i solidarności, bo głęboko wierzymy w nieodległe zwycięstwo i odbudowę silnej i na wskroś europejskiej Ukrainy. Polskie środowisko akademickie wspiera Ukrainę od pierwszych dni wojny, nie zakłócając przy tym ani procesu kształcenia, ani rozwoju ukraińskich kadr naukowych, chcąc przekazać najmądrzej jak potrafimy pomoc, która pozwoli utrzymać ciągłość procesu edukacyjnego. Pomoc, która pozwoli też podpowiedzieć, co należy jeszcze zrobić, żeby wolna i niepodległa Ukraina dysponowała nowoczesnym i opartym o europejskie standardy systemem nauki i szkolnictwa wyższego. Między innymi właśnie dlatego nasza uczelnia, ale też inne uczelnie w Polsce dążyły i dążą do włączania uczelni ukraińskich do pełnego partnerstwa w ramach programów uniwersytetów europejskich. W ramach partnerstwa Uniwersytetu Gdańskiego, czyli Aliansu 9 Europejskich Uczelni Nadmorskich CEU, już w kwietniu 2022 roku zainicjowaliśmy podpisanie umowy o współpracy z Odeskim Uniwersytetem Narodowym Miecznikowa. Podobne inicjatywy miały miejsce w innych partnerstwach. Narodowa Agencja Wymiany Akademickiej uruchomiła odrębny budżet, mający na celu dalsze wdrażanie procesu konsolidacji uczelni ukraińskich z partnerstwami uniwersytetów europejskich. Bardzo się cieszymy i dziękujemy agencji za to niezwykłe i bardzo istotne wsparcie, ale prosimy też o kontynuowanie tej ważnej misji. Wielu z nas przedstawicieli polskich uczelni włączyło się także z entuzjazmem w organizowany przez Fundację Edukacyjną Perspektywy projekt Incubating Freedom for Ukraine, który zainaugurował unikatowy program w zakresie szkoleń IT dla kilkudziesięciu tysięcy kobiet z Ukrainy przebywających tymczasowo w Polsce. Są też inne inicjatywy, na przykład polsko-ukraiński klaster akademicki zajmujący się sztuczną inteligencją czy cyber security i wiele innych projektów. Dlatego dziś jest tu z nami wiele instytucji, wielu przedstawicieli polskich i ukraińskich uczelni, które przez miniony rok wypracowały system różnorakiego wsparcia, dzięki którym już po wojnie dobrze wykształcone kadry naukowców, studentów, absolwentów ukraińskich uczelni będą mogły włączyć się w jak najszerszym zakresie budowy wolnej i niepodległej Ukrainy i jej uczelni, i jej instytucji naukowych, o które walczy z wami ramię w ramię polskie środowisko akademickie. Sława Ukrainie!
Bardzo dziękuję. A teraz proszę o zabranie głosu dyrektora Narodowej Agencji Wymiany Akademickiej, pana doktora Dawida Kosteckiego.
Thank you very much, and now we would like to invite stage Dr. Dawid Kostecki, Director of the Polish National Agency for Academic Exchange.
Dziękuję. A zaraz ja proszę słowa dyrektora Polskiego Nacjonalnego Agencji Specjalnych Akademicznych Obmieniw, doktora Dawida Kosteckiego.
Szanowny Panie Ministrze, Magnificencjo, Panie Rektorze
Mr.
Gospodarzu,
Minister,
drodzy
Your
rektorzy,
Magnificence,
nasi przyjaciele z Ukrainy,
rectors, our friends from Ukraine, and academic community, ladies and
Narodowa
gentlemen,
Agencja Wymiany Akademickiej
the Polish National Agency for Academic Exchange already in March last year started the Solidarity with Ukraine program, which is quite fast as for the standards of public administration, considering the fact that what happened on the 24th of February last year, the aggression of Russian Federation to Ukraine, requires efficient reaction. Unfortunately, we are also fully aware that the conflict has been going on for over 14 months and it is still going on. So the first edition of Solidarity with Ukraine was directed at providing individual support to various applicants, students and PhD students. But it turns out that as the conflict extends, also the support has to be modified, especially when we look at the dramatic reports from the front line. Some months ago, the world of internet was shown the photo of Fedor Sandor, professor of the University of Novgorod, in a full uniform with an assault rifle on his knees, delivering a lecture to his students via a cell phone. We know that the new Minister of Education and Science, Dr. Oksenisovi, in Ukraine, also returning directly from the front line. When we are considering how to talk about Ukraine, how to discuss about Ukraine, how to talk about the reconstruction of free sovereign Ukraine, we can't imagine a better location than Gdansk, a place where the gene, the DNA of solidarity and the pulse of life is full of freedom. This is a place where we need to build scientific bridges between Poland and Ukraine. I'm especially happy that our Ukrainian partners have come in such numbers to this meeting, and I'm convinced that more than 100,000 gift of blood is not to be wasted, because this is a struggle for freedom, your freedom, but also our freedom. Ladies and gentlemen, we've managed to put together, thanks to your activity, more than 60 experts, 8 discussion panels. We're going to be talking about digitization of Ukraine, but we're also going to talk about diploma recognition, about European universities, which are an important element in the process of Europeization of Ukrainian higher education and including Ukraine in the European system, university system. system. I'm very happy that we have the guests here from Czechia, Slovakia, Finland, France,
oraz Stanów
and the
Zjednoczonych.
United States of America.
Porównanie
The comparison of the ideas that you have, your experiences of various scales of cooperation will help us create a plane of understanding and create the plan on institutional level, which will enable us soon, as we all believe, in near future, to contribute to the reconstruction of free, independent Ukraine. But let me just be able to mention one more important program. Thanks to the Minister of Education and Science, the presence here of Mr. Secretary of State at the Ministry of Science, we started intervention grants. The allocation amount is 5 million zlotys, but it could be especially directed at Ukraine. We're talking about reaction to sudden developments, such developments which we were not able to foresee early on. That's why we create research teams so we can react quickly to the changing situations. That's how we're going to use the intervention plan, and I'd like to thank Mr. Minister very much for his kindness and understanding of this urgent need. Finalizing, I'd like to say something on a more personal note. Allow me to speak now not as a director of the National Agency for Academic Exchange, but as a scientist and researcher. Science is done in the scientific community through discussions, disputes, using existing theorems and proofs. But science also brings progress, and it's progress that we're going to talk about many times. Today, we're going to mention it in all kinds of ways. But progress is progressive only if it improves the human being. Let's not forget about this. It's the human being that is the most important value in anything that we want to achieve in science. And this was the main idea for the organizers of this conference. And I hope that we can have an efficient reconstruction of free, independent Ukraine, but also our support in this context of reconstruction and of the Ukrainian higher education and making it more European. Let's have a good session.
Bardzo dziękujemy.
Thank you very much.
A teraz prosimy o zabranie
And now
głosu
I'd like
pana
to give the
ministra,
floor
doktora Tomasza
to Minister Tomasz
sekretarza
Rzymkowski,
stanu w
Secretary of
Ministerstwie
State at the
Edukacji i
Ministry
Nauki,
of Education and
pełnomocnika rządu do
Science,
spraw rozwoju i umiędzynarodowienia edukacji
representative
i nauki.
of the
Thank you very much.
government.
And now we would like to invite Minister Dr. Tomasz Rzymkowski, Secretary of State in the Ministry of Education and Science of Poland, Government Plenipotentiary for the Development and Internationalization of Education and Science.
Щиро дякуємо і запрошуємо до промови міністра доктора Tomasza Rzymkowskiego, державного секретаря Міністерства освіти і науки Польщі, уповноваженого уряду з питань розвитку та інтернаціоналізації освіти і науки.
Your Magnificence, Rector, Magnificencies, Mr. Director, for our friends from Ukraine, but also guests from our region, East Central Europe, but also the aforementioned friends from France and the United States. Dear academic community of Gdansk University, ladies and gentlemen, first I'd like to thank you, Rector, for the ability to organize this conference for the second time here in Gdansk University. Congratulations also to Dr. David Kostecki, Director of the National Agency for Academic Exchange, for his contribution and commitment to the organization of this event. This is the 14th month of the military conflict. The conflict, which it needs to be emphasized, really started in 2014. What happened on the 24th of February last year was a mere continuation of Russian imperialism, aggression, bestiality, things that are drastically contradicting the foundations of our civilization. And one of the fruits of our civilization is the world of academia, the universities. Whereas Europe and our entire civilization, Latin, European, Christian, whatever we choose to call it, the civilization of the West, what it created and what is the brand of this civilizational circle is the university, is the academic world. This is what makes us stand out. But also our humanity, what is dramatically contradictory to what Russian Federation has done in 2014, but also earlier, by murdering their own citizens, or the aggression against Georgia, or what's happening today. The world has been watching it after the 24th of February last year, ruthless aggression against women and children, infraction of territorial integrity of a state, and an attempt to destroy the country's independence. At the Ministry of Science, from day one of the military context, we took multiple activities. I'm not going to mention the ones that had the broadest scope and the greatest importance. In the case of common education, I'm talking here about the children and youth from Ukraine who were taken into the Polish educational system and are still part of it. We have almost 200,000, at the moment 190,000 children from Ukraine. It was a major challenge for us as a state, as the educational administration, but especially for the local authorities, which for the most are really responsible for primary schools and secondary schools. We've passed this test, but at the same time we also undertook a number of activities to support students, university students from Ukraine, our Polish students who studied in Ukraine, but also representatives of academic teaching and research from Ukraine from the very beginning, and we will be emphasizing this quite clearly during this conference. Any activities that the Polish government and the state undertook, together with our Western partners, are aimed at achieving the goal mentioned by Mr. Rector. I thank you for those words. We want to support Ukrainian science and research, and we'll do our utmost to prevent Ukrainian soil from being deprived of its intellectual assets. Yes, we want this work also in Poland to provide further cooperation after the Ukrainian conflict ends. But we want you to be able to be back in Ukraine, to be an essential part of the reconstruction process in Ukraine. We want to help you continue your research, continue your educational process at universities. That's why a number of activities are going to be provided to give you support at this difficult moment. This is the moral imperative of our civilization. We want to support, or speaking directly, we do not want to lay Ukrainian soil barren from the most valuable daughters and sons of Ukraine. I want for this support to be also an element of support in this direction. The entire government, looking at the various elements of the government administration supports Ukraine. We have educational sector, but we also have a number of other supports, instances of support from other agencies directed towards the citizens of Ukraine. One more element that's important is what we do as a ministry. We monitor, we support, we observe what you do at universities in Poland for the scientific and research community in Ukraine, which after the 24th of February last year happened to find themselves in Poland. We want to also draw some conclusions from today's and tomorrow's conference. hopefully providing us with some intellectual feed to be able to better provide the support. As Director Kostecki said, we have to be aware that the conflict is still underway and it will continue for some time longer. We have to be ready to continue anything that we're doing now for a longer period of time. I'd like to emphasize one more thing. As the Polish state, we were the initiator of the process of exiting collaboration in science and research with the Russian Federation. Last year, we terminated all the bilateral contracts with the Russian Federation. Other countries, our partners, followed us. This is very important. You should not be an opportunist in a situation where we witness what Russian Federation does in Ukraine. It's also a signal that the world of science should send to the world of sports. It is with great pain that I see information from the International Olympic Committee about allowing Russian athletes to compete in international competitions or even the Olympic Games. If the world of the West wants to clearly say no to the aggression, it has to do so consistently. And Poland is consistent. And consistently we're going to be supporting the Ukrainian nation in the best way we can. First and foremost in education and science. And I'd like to thank you all, professors, magnificencies, rectors of all Polish universities for what you are doing for Ukraine, because it's very important support to help the students from Ukraine to continue their courses, to help the PhDs to continue their research, to continue their research careers, and also for researchers to continue with their development. So I'd like to thank very much the representatives of other foreign research centers for being here, for your work so far, and I'd like to encourage you to continue providing support in what we Polish people do for Ukraine in this area of university education and research. I wish you all a fruitful conference. Let's hope we see those fruits in the ministry, and please always count on our support, because we are treating cooperation with Ukrainian scientists as a great honor for us. And we hope that when the war is over, Poland will not be the leader in being the bridge between West and Ukraine, but that Ukraine will fully join us. And we will together, in mutual understanding and perspectives for future common joint research, will be looking into the future and telling the world about the threat that was, is, and will be the Russian Federation, threat for civilized world of the West. Thank you.
Bardzo dziękujemy. A teraz w zastępstwie pana wiceministra Dmytro Zawgrodnego głos zabierze pan Jewgen Kudrjawiec, radca ministra do spraw współpracy międzynarodowej.
Thank you very much, and we would like to kindly invite Mr. Yevgen Kudrjawiec from the Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine, who is Minister's Advisor for the International Cooperation.
Щиро дякуємо і запрошуємо до розмови пана Євгена Кудрявця, радника міністра освіти і науки України з питань міжнародної діяльності.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for inviting us to the Focus on Ukraine conference organized by our Polish colleagues. And it's a big pleasure for us to be presented on this conference and say a couple of words about what we are doing and to hear what kind of support we have from our Polish colleagues and other friends all around the world. Education is a human right, not a privilege, but recent events in Ukraine have demonstrated that access to education is indeed a privilege for many children, and the Russian aggression has caused severe damage to our educational infrastructure and resulted in numerous casualties and displaced students. Despite ongoing efforts by our Minister of Education and Science, we need large-scale support from international organizations like the World Bank, UNESCO, and UNICEF to define the next generations of Ukraine. We are grateful for Poland's assistance during these challenging times. The Polish Minister of Education and Science has provided invaluable support in collaboration with different organizations, enabling displaced Ukrainians to continue their education in Poland and work on transformative projects. Together, we have signed a declaration on cooperation in education and aim to enhance joint projects, cooperation between students and staff, and access to educational tools and technologies. Recently, the government of Ukraine, together with the World Bank, the European Commission, and the United Nations, presented an updated rapid damage and needs assessment, and the total cost of restoration in Ukraine is estimated at $411 billion, with education requiring around $11 billion, including $513 million for higher education needs. We appreciate the effort from Polish universities and international organizations like UNESCO and UNICEF, and look forward to further cooperation with our Polish colleagues. I hope this conference deepens the collaboration between our countries, education systems, and international partners. And on behalf of the Minister of Education, Dr. Oksana Lisovi, I want to share our welcome word to all participants of this conference. Thank you.
Dziękujemy bardzo. Szanowni Państwo, zanim przejdziemy do pierwszego panelu konferencji, który poświęcony jest międzynarodowej współpracy uczelnianej, chcielibyśmy krótko podsumować program Solidarni z Ukrainą, który skierowany był w głównej mierze do ukraińskich studentów i doktorantów, dając im możliwość kontynuowania studiów, prowadzenia prac nad rozprawą doktorską lub odbycia innych dowolnych form kształcenia w polskich i zagranicznych uczelniach i instytucjach od marca do września 2022 roku. Zapraszam na scenę panią Magdalenę Kachnowicz, dyrektor Biura Programów dla Studentów NAWA.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we start the first panel of the conference related to the International University Cooperation, we would like to briefly summarize the Solidarity with Ukraine program, which was addressed mainly to Ukrainian students and doctoral candidates, giving them the opportunity to continue their studies, work on a doctoral dissertation, or complete any other form of education at Polish universities and institutes since March to September 2022. We would like to invite to the stage Mrs. Magdalena Kachnowicz, Director of the Department of Programs for Students of the Polish National Agency for Academic Exchange.
Dzień dobry Państwu. Szanowni Państwo, program
Hello everyone. Solidarity with Ukraine was announced on 15th of March 2022. And I am convinced that most of you are very well familiar what you were doing in February and March 2022. What were we doing? Yes, we were making sandwiches and packing bottles with tea, and we were collecting money and looking for accommodation for refugees. We did it because so many people appeared around us and they all needed our help. But we were doing it also because there was nothing else we could do as human beings. We had no influence whatsoever on what was going on beyond our eastern border. We had no influence on the war in Ukraine. But what did we have an influence on? Helping out. Yes, helping people. It allowed us to escape this feeling of helplessness. And this is what Solidarity with Ukraine as a program is about. The program is, to us as the National Agency for Academic Exchange, has been very demanding. You have never before had such a scale of activities and in such an uncertainty, because to be honest, we didn't know what was going to happen the next day or within the next couple of weeks. But we decided that we could not wait. We couldn't just stand and look on to be helpless. We knew that every day refugees were coming to Poland, more and more people. We knew that these refugees will include students, doctoral candidates who will need our help. And we also knew that they would approach universities, research institutes, and they would be looking for help there. So what we came up with was that we could give you, universities and research institutes, we could give you some tools to help, so that you would know how to provide this help. Solidarity with Ukraine as a program has allowed to finance education costs, but also to provide scholarships scholarship funds for all Ukrainian students. Universities were able to accept students, doctoral candidates, so that these doctoral candidates could work on their PhD dissertations. But universities were also able to accept students and doctoral candidates for other courses, preparatory courses, other forms of education. That's very important, because we have never wanted Ukrainian students to stop being students of Ukrainian universities. What we want to do is to help when our help was needed. And activities under the program, the program is still continues, but the activities directed immediately towards students and post and doctoral candidates have completed. 87 universities and research institutes and Polish Academy of Sciences institutes decided to help students and doctoral candidates, and we spent more than 30 million zlotys for this as assistance, and most importantly 1,724 students took part. These were refugees from Ukraine. And now it's worth saying that nothing would happen without funds. And these funds, we obtained them based on a special order from the Minister of Education and Science and the Minister of Health. The program would not have happened without those 86 universities, higher education institutions, which decided to help students and post and doctoral candidates. And it wouldn't have happened without the heroic effort of the team of the National Agency for Academic Exchange. So to those of you, all those of you who have participated even to the smallest extent in the program, thank you ever so much. Let me also say that despite of the fact that this part of the program is completed, we by no means forget about helping Ukraine. We still do our work there in a different form. Due to these discussions that we had last year during the Solidarity with Ukraine conference, we decided to provide other measures, and I'm not going to discuss them today because you are going to hear about them during this conference many times. But Ukraine is not giving up. Ukraine is still fighting and is winning. But we are not standing by, we are not passive, we still remember, act and work, and I hope that this conference is going to be about it. The conference will focus on Ukraine.
Dziękujemy.
Thank you.
Szanowni Państwo, tysiące studentów z Ukrainy, którzy znaleźli w Polsce schronienie i możliwość kontynuowania edukacji, potrzebowała różnego rodzaju wsparcia, nie tylko akademickiego. O tym szerokim kontekście pomocy opowie przedstawicielka Uniwersytetu SPPS, pani Katarzyna Ksenicz.
Thousands of students from Ukraine who found shelter in Poland and the opportunity to continue their education needed various types of support, not only academic. Katarzyna Ksenicz, a representative of the University of Social Sciences and Humanities in Warsaw, will talk about this broad context of help.
Dziękuję. Dzień dobry Państwu.
Thank you. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that my presentation will be, the slides will change in some way. First of all, I'm very happy to be here with you today. I welcome you very warmly. And so let's move on to the point.
Proszę Państwa, nawiążę między innymi do słów pani dyrektor, która opowiadała o solidarności z Ukrainą, ale zanim zacznę opowiadać o programie, w którym mieliśmy również przyjemność uczestniczyć, powiem, jak to się stało w ogóle, że zdecydowaliśmy się wziąć udział w tym programie, ponieważ nasza droga do tego programu też oczywiście ma swoje pierwsze kroki.
Well, it had its first steps on February the 24th. On February the 25th,
Nie działa.
it's not working.
Tu.
Here, there.
Czy mogę poprosić o
Can I ask for some help, please?
Prosimy o pomoc
So I'd
techniczną.
like to ask for technical support.
Dobra, dzięki. Dobra. 25 lutego na naszym uniwersytecie został powołany zespół do spraw kryzysu, zespół do spraw pomocy społeczności ukraińskiej na Uniwersytecie SWPS. Było to dla nas oczywiście kluczowe, aby przede wszystkim objąć opieką naszą społeczność
we had to cover our university community with help and with support. As we've heard, most of us met in railway stations with refugees. We did all we could to provide these people with assistance, the people who were coming to us from beyond our eastern border. First of all, we decided, as early as possible, to create a safe environment for our students, to give them the safety and place in these institutes where they were studying, so that they are aware that they have a place to come back to, that they can count on us, and that they have our support. The team set up by Mr. Rector covered 5 branches of our university: Warsaw, Wrocław, Sopot, Poznań, and Katowice branches of our university, our University of Humanities and Social Sciences, faculties, and 2 divisions: academic division and business division. Including the 25-strong team took immediate decisions related mainly to the objective of our team, and that was to recommend and coordinate measures and to provide security for our students, to develop a path for them which would be as quick as possible, so that they can study in peace, and to even say that they will be absent in classes, and that they are secure in being able to study despite the war, although some of them managed to go back to their country in the meantime. This quick decision-making path has allowed us to secure as many people. So on the 25th of February, these people approached us, and within 24 hours, they had the guarantee of being able to study, and financial support as well, because our university decided to put a hold on the fees, and also to provide scholarships, financial help for these students for some time. Our email was sos@swps.org.pl. It was quite a quick decision, because the SOS email received all the questions and inquiries from students and the academic community, also how to help Ukrainian students and how to give them a secure place. These questions included an enormous number of inquiries about psychological assistance to our students, for their families, for the people who are in crisis, for people who are crossing the border, who are in contact with our students and our faculty, those who are able to provide help or who need help. As a university with roots in psychological sciences, we decided that this would be our absolutely secondary goal, that would be psychological support. Courage and openness in providing help is not just about providing assistance to our students, but also we decided that we needed to help, to start with it. On the 25th of February, we started receiving first requests for psychological consultations for our students. We have this deep privilege that there is a clinic, a cognitive behavioral therapy clinic at our university with which we work together, and we have been working with them for many years. Our students can participate in free of charge consultations from this clinic. We opened a special path, we opened up a dedicated budget for people from Ukraine, and we referred the first people for psychological support already on the 25th of February. We also opened up possibility of legal consultations. It was also a remarkable opportunity to provide a secure environment for our students. With questions about being able to return, and some secure stay here and a guarantee of being able to continue their studies here. You can see the numbers related to the consultations provided on the screen. Let me emphasize that consultations for Ukrainian students still continue. We launched them in February, but it doesn't mean that they were closed down a year later. You can see a pile-up in those figures. Of course, the largest number of people was in March 2022, obviously, but there was a remarkable increase a year later, when we might say that the situation is sort of permanent. We would like it to be almost nearing the end. Students do want to continue to participate in studies. They can't see the end of the situation. They are faced with more challenging problems, and we are now providing this psychological help. They are now beginning to face the trauma and the challenges that they are facing in a completely new light. But of course, I would like to present specific cases to you that we had in our team, that we had to face in our team, that they were a huge challenge to us. The case of our student from Mariupol, whom we found after 3 months, a student from Wrocław campus. 3 months, she managed to establish contact with us. She confirmed that she was alive and that she was still willing to continue to study. We were relieved, of course. A case from our legal advisory team. It's a difficult one, but I decided to share it with you. Because when we were providing legal aid to our students, we mainly wanted to help Ukrainians, but there were also Russian and Belarusian citizens who were coming for aid. And remembering that there is always a human being who is important, we did not refuse such aid. And their questions were also difficult to us. And they were a remarkable experience as well, we might say, because the stress and the anxiety whether Russian and Belarusian students could still continue to participate. They were there as well. The conference is dedicated, strictly speaking, to Ukraine, and we realize that Ukrainians are our focus of interest, and we are focusing our most important goals on them. But in the face of international community that we have in our universities and higher education institutions, we still do not forget that there are other parties to the conflict and there are people involved from other nationalities. And we also covered these individuals with psychological and legal aid. Responsibility in help giving, we decided to focus on our students of other origins, including those from Poland, as a psychological university, which has most students at psychology faculties from all the 5 campuses. And all these people immediately started to help. You could meet them in railway stations, in various foundations and associations where they were providing help, but a risk appeared, and we decided that we have to make sure to address it. These were the people who were aspiring to be psychologists. They were so willing to help, and we wanted to provide assistance to them so that they wouldn't provide more harm or give more harm to the refugees coming to Poland. That's why we decided to carry out training for them as quickly as possible. The training was carried out together with the SWPS clinic. We called it psychological first aid kit. And this was a unique training course, very quickly, organized very quickly for 300 people. We were planning one more training course because there were more and more people applying. And at this course, Professor Agnieszka Popiel and Dr. Ewa Pragłowska were preparing our students to safely provide help and assistance in those railway stations, in the places where we meet children, adults, young people, so that we can give warm words of help and rescue rather than diagnosing them. We need to refer them further on and show them some paths rather than do therapy. Rather than do harm, rather than make them cry. So just be there, but also as much as be there, and provide this kind of support. To us, as a psychological university, it was an absolutely key condition, a key thing, not to do harm, given what was going on, but show more solutions that can be used. Also, there were questions from the faculty at our university and your universities, because we also encountered requests to help in training, how to cope with what's happening in universities, with panic attacks, with people who get connected to us remotely online, and suddenly they go down to bomb shelters, and then students here start crying and their emotions, and we provided training for them as well.
For the students, but also for the volunteers. The students of our university also carried out a variety of activities, and 2 of those that I'm showing in the slide should be known to, especially the dictionary created by the students of School of Form. It was quite popular in social media. It is now translated into 7, it incorporates 7 languages. We would send it to schools, and and kindergartens, all kinds of offices and agencies. This is a pictorial dictionary, very useful, created during the very first days, started in the very beginning, and the therapeutic fairy tale. This is something where we're really good at it. Working together with the scientific circle, our students decided that children have to be reached and have to be this way treated for trauma. And this way we move on to solidarity with Ukraine, psychological support for persons who want to start courses or continue courses at our university, but also at your universities. We decided that this type of support is one of the most important resources that we want to use. Solidarity with Ukraine, Solidarnie z Ukrainą, obviously provided language courses. One of the requirements for the organization of those courses was to provide psychological and legal support. As the university, SWPS, decided to open one language group free of charge. Continuing as solidarity with Ukraine, we opened further ones, and the persons who joined us also used the support of our psychologists and psychotherapists, and they were directed to the psychological fast tracks that we designed. Finalizing my, I hope, brief presentation, I hope I didn't bore you too long, the problems of refugees, but also witnesses of war in Ukraine. This is a task which is ahead of us now. Post-traumatic stress and the post-war situation. This is something that Ukraine will have to face as a challenge. It's also a challenge for us as a psychological university, which we see already now. And frankly speaking, I hope that today's conference will quite clearly show to you that psychological provision of people who study not only in Poland but also in Ukraine, finding a solid partner who will be able to support soldiers returning from the war, who will be able to return from the war to their pre-war obligations, from the trenches to university, to conduct classes. This will be our duty, and this will be a necessity in Ukraine. Thank you very much for solidarity with Ukraine. Thank you for this program and allowing us to participate, and thank you for giving me the opportunity and the time. Thank you. Slava Ukrainie. Thank you very much for your intervention. And now we would like to invite to the stage Professor Taras Hutsola from Polskie National University, who will talk about the experiences of the Solidarity with Ukraine program from the perspective of a person looking after Ukrainian universities at the Agricultural University in Kraków.
From the Polskie State University, who will talk about his experiences with the Solidarity with Ukraine program from the perspective of the tutor of Ukrainian students at the University of Agriculture in Kraków.
Dzień dobry, szanowni państwo.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Dziękuję organizatorom co na dzisiaj tu, w Gdańsk.
I'd like to thank the organizers for what they've done so far, because for me Gdansk is an association with something good, something positive, and I'm thinking of good people. Why? I'll tell you later. The beginning, the first day, Ukraine 2022. This is initiative formed in Ukraine at Agriculture University of Kraków. It was the first organizational moments have already been done in mid-March. Loads that were or shipments that were sent to Ukraine. Agricultural University in Kraków, Ukrainian fund,
Працює. Одразу
So
було зрозуміло, що треба робити все.
from day one, we understood that we had to do everything through official
Далі не
channels
було якихось блондів.
so that we do not make any long-lasting mistakes.
Наша єдностка є
And we wanted to make sure that our unit
не позитивні моменти. То не було головне. Я теж
would avoid non-positive moments. I say it every time. We organized the team like this. People from various countries, the US.
Три керунки. Один з
Three
керунків
directions. One was
де було організовано волонтерівши
volunteers.
по
We
дарах
organized
гуманітарних.
volunteer around the humanitarian support.
З нами працювали
Working with
Штати
us
Зjednoczone,
were the
Франція,
United
Канада,
States, France,
Швеція,
Canada,
Ізраїль.
Sweden, Israel,
Головним
and the
таким
main
краєм то було
country
Польща,
was Poland.
бо ми, по-перше, ми були тут.
Because first of all, this is where we were located.
Польща як
Secondly,
на мене,
for me personally, Poland
який не тільки перший
is the country not only of
зрозумів, що то є та війна,
that is the first that understood what that
але
war
і
was
з один
about,
тих
but
країв,
is one of those
який
countries
хотів би
where
так одразу помочь.
was ready straight away decided to help.
Працював, і ж працював.
And we started working together.
З ким працюваю?
Who did I
Наука,
work with?
бізнес, студенти,
Science,
і
business,
організації
students,
гуманітарних.
NGOs.
Спочатку військовий.
Military equipment.
На початку одразу повім, бо
I'll
кудись
say
так вийшов
from
концерт. Якщо б була
starters,
можливість
if it's
самоліта
possible
зложити крила, то ми б його теж відправили.
to fold planes
zdjęcia,
of a plane, we would be
Що ми
sending
робили, як ми відправляли, то все,
jet fighters. But
różną
this is what we
gatunku.
were able to ship.
Ну, є такі
All kinds of
товари, які
types of goods.
що до кінця життя не можу повідати.
The sort of goods that I won't be able to tell you what they were until I die.
Спочатку військовий, то
Further, military equipment.
ті люди, які ми в логістиці є, от
Those people who are providing logistics door to door or hand to hand. So these are the people we work directly with
в Україні,
in Ukraine, military personnel.
То один з таких ще
This
теж
is one of the
елементів,
elements
керунок в військовій частині, то є наша
in the military equipment is our
Помощь
support by
самоходам.
providing
Ten Mercedes
cars.
з
This
Гданська.
Mercedes came from Gdansk.
Особисто кожний самоход, кожний ладунок,
Each cargo
що
shipment,
було відправлено,
everything that was
підписано
shipped
таким,
was
хто приймає,
signed
як
by
приймає, в
who's
якій ілості.
sending it,
Максимальна
handing it over,
ефективність,
who's
щоб була
receiving it, in what
ефективність і,
quantity. So
як
it was
по-українському,
maximum
прозорість.
effectiveness and, as we say in Ukraine, prozorist, careful,
Речі, то особливо
clarity.
Діти було особливо, тому що були такі моменти, коли
And was interesting was that there were moments that another direction is children. We had the information that there is no food at the children's home for 2 days. And what are you going to do?
Але так сталося, що наші
But
самоходи
it so happened that there was a car, there was a lorry,
в околицях Львова
which was
на дорозі був розладований.
located near Lviv on the road, being unloaded.
І то, що ці діти потребували,
And whatever the children needed, in about 5 days was there at the children's home, the orphanage. Yeah, that's how it should be.
І то їхало з Польщі.
And this was all shipped from Poland.
Можна дуже мовити, але
We
мені залишилося
could
6
say a lot, but I have 6 minutes left, and I want to be on time. Medical equipment, the first shipments from regions, from hospitals directly to the military. Feed for pets and animals, lots of feed.
З Гданська.
Also from Gdansk.
Наш приятель
There is our friend here,
Перший
Igor
раз познав,
Tkach.
думав, що він українець. Ні, у нього нема ніч. Ігор Ткач з Гданська, чемпіон.
Igor Tkach from Gdansk, who was
Фірми.
a champion.
Теж гданські,
Gdansk-based companies provided food, and the university. Marcelina, she's not here, I think.
Перший раз зайшов в головний.
The first time I entered the main building here, Marcelina immediately arranged for things to be packed in the car, and we were off. Facebook. Third time I'm saying everything was done officially, transparently. Clearly, everything was white, as we call it. The analysis, 150-ton, of which Poland 65%, US 10, France 7, Canada 6, Sweden 6, Israel 5, others 1%. Well, I won't tell you who the others were. 150 tons. I wrote that value. I wrote priceless. Who knows how much it costs for the food if it's delivered within 5 hours? How much does the car cost in Ukraine? How much it's valued, where it was bought for 10,000 zlotys in Poland? I don't know. Organizational stream. This is closer to us. Good and positive thing was that when our organization was established at Agriculture University in Kraków, I have those great experiences because up to the war we worked with the university and the admin, with Rector Sylvester Tabor and the International Cooperation Office with Dominika Dkiewicz. So what we had situation that children were calling from the border, people wanted help, young people needed help. There are all kinds of categories that needed help. So it was suggested that there is a possibility to provide a Polish language course. The application was made to Solidarity with Ukraine, and 5 PhD students enrolled, and other projects followed, which were learning or scientific, and they were all done as part of the, let me call it, the Ukrainian direction. So, for example, Polish language courses as part of the NAVA program. 25 Ukrainian students, 1 month. After 1 month, it was in Kraków. Positive emotions. And prospects for the future. Everyone gets a certificate such as this, and here, NAVA was working for the future. Because each, I don't know, maybe there were 30, maybe there were 40. I'm talking about those kids where I know because I coordinated. So those 25 students, in the future, they already know what NAVA is, the Polish National Academic Cooperation Agency. Is it an investment in the future? It is. And by how much NAVA knows only, but Ukrainian kids already know which brand worked with them and gave them positive emotions. NAVA Solidarity with Ukraine, direction PhDs, 5 PhD students, they got scholarships, prospects for scientific development, positive emotions. And I make one brand, children and NAVA, because each PhD has 1 or 2 children, and all of them are here today. Because when it was those 5 stayed in Poland. Is it good or is it bad? For me, it's good because I feel here better than in other countries. So the children of NAVA, they don't understand what NAVA is. They say, yeah, NAVA, 4 letters. But in 10 years' time, they will understand what NAVA did for their parents. And again, those parents can positively evaluate what has been done. Prospects for the future? Yes. What's happening in the future? We can ask NAVA. Are we going to be in NAVA? I hope we are. NAVA, I'll say it once again, for our team that worked with NAVA. It's the scientific prospects for the future, it's positive emotions, and it's our children. And thank you for that, to NAVA.
Далі конференція, далі рапорти, то теж наші студенти, то наші українські вечори на різних конференціях, де ми
Ukrainian
полякам,
evenings during the
розуміємо, як то
various
виглядає,
conferences where we thank Polish people, we
Керівник
understand how it's
наукової
done,
конференції
scientific direction
в тематах НАВА
conferences,
теж
and
15-20%
has
на всіх
15 to
конференціях, то були зробили наші
20%
докторанти,
of
студенти
this.
під
All
брендом
those
НАВА.
conferences, at all those conferences, our students and PhDs were presenting under NAVA brand.
Ну і якщо на публікації, то 21
Publications,
артикул, із
21
них 6 або 7
publications, of which 6 or 7
теж під брендом НАВА,
also branded by NAVA
дофінансуванням
with
теж НАВА.
co-funding from NAVA.
То, I'm sorry, 10 секунд і далі.
Just 10
Дякую
seconds
wszystkim,
and
to
I'll
якраз
conclude. Thank you
така
to all of you.
філософське з'єнче,
This is a philosophical kind of picture.
то подякування
This is a thank
польської
you
сторони
to the
від української.
Polish side from
Ту є
Ukrainian
різні
side.
люди.
These
От
are all
Гданська,
kinds of people, from
Варшава,
Gdansk through Warsaw,
Гданський університет, СГГВ,
Gdansk
Краківський
University,
університет,
SGGW, Kraków University,
Зелена Гора, Przemyśl.
Zielona Góra,
То подякування
Przemyśl.
ще один раз
So once again,
української
I'll
сторони
say
польської.
Ukrainians
От
thanking
міністрів,
Poles.
от воєвод,
Starting from
от
ministers
генералів
and government
поліцейських,
regions,
військових, от людей, от
generals of the
зеспілів,
police,
от тих всіх
military,
організацій,
from
от шпиталей
organizations, from hospitals,
і домов сиротських.
and from orphanages.
От себе
From myself,
дякую
thank you
за wszystko,
for
що
everything
було зроблено.
that has been done.
І добавлю по-українськи.
And I'll
Все, що ми тут
conclude in
робили,
Ukrainian. Everything
я
that
називаю
we've done
добро.
so far,
Нам,
I
українцям,
call
потрібно не
good for
використовувати
us
це добро,
Ukrainians.
а продукувати далі.
We do not have
Слава
to
Україні.
use anything good, but we have to keep producing it. Glory to Ukraine.
Dziękujemy bardzo. Szanowni Państwo, cieszymy się niezmiernie, że są z nami dzisiaj
Thank you very much. We are very happy that there are students from Ukraine with us, and the experience of courses in
Thank you. We
Poland
are
will
glad
be
that we have
shared
here
with
students
us
from
by
Ukraine, and the following will talk about their study experiences in Poland.
pani Daria Diemidowa, studentka Uniwersytetu Jagiellońskiego.
Ms. Daria Demidova,
student of the Jagiellonian University.
student of the Jagiellonian University
Pani
in Kraków.
Sofia Dalijak,
Sofia Dalijak,
studentka
student
Uniwersytetu
of
Warmińsko-Mazurskiego.
Warmińsko-Mazurski University.
Sofia Dalijak, student of the University of Warmia and Mazury in Olsztyn.
Pani Aleksandra
Alexandra
Tubulcewa, studentka
Student
Warszawskiego
of the
Uniwersytetu
Warsaw
Medycznego.
Medical University.
Aleksandra Tubolcewa, student of the Medical University of Warsaw.
Pani Marianna Petriwska,
Marianna
studentka
Petriwska,
Uniwersytetu
student of Warsaw
Warszawskiego.
University.
Marianna Petriwska, student of the University of Warsaw.
Oraz pani Diana
And Diana
Sydorczuk, studentka
Sydorczuk, student
Uniwersytetu
of
Medycznego
Medical
w Białymstoku.
University of Białystok.
Diana Sydorczuk, student of the Medical University of Białystok.
Zapraszamy panie na scenę.
Please join us on stage.
Dzień dobry, szanowni państwo. Nazywam
Good morning,
się
ladies and
Aleksandra
gentlemen.
Tubolcewa.
I'm Alexandra
studentką
Tobolcewa, and I'm a
kierunku
student of
Jestem bardzo
medical
wdzięczna za
faculty.
zaproszenie.
I'm
Udział w
very
konferencji
grateful
to dla mnie
for the
wielki
invitation.
zaszczyt.
The participation in this
Przyjechałam do
conference is a
Polski,
great
kiedy
honor. I
wybuchnęła wojna w moim
came to
kraju.
Poland when war started
Od
in my
początku
country, and from the very
rosyjskiej
beginning of the Russian
życie w Ukrainie
invasion, life in
zostało
Ukraine
wstrzymane.
was put
Musiałam
to a
zostawić
stop.
wszystko, co
I
miałam,
had to leave
odłożyć
everything
swoje
I had,
nadzieje i
put aside
marzenia
my dreams
na dalszy
and
plan.
hopes.
Zwykle
And
łatwo i szybko się przystosuje
usually I
do
adjust
nowego
easily
otoczenia,
to
ale w
new
tamtej
environment, but
sytuacji
in
było
that
to bardzo
situation
trudne,
it
bo
was
cała
really
moja
difficult
rodzina
because my
zdecydowała
entire
się zostać
family
w
decided
Ukrainie.
to stay behind
Ale
in
moim
Ukraine.
zdaniem
But in my
przeprowadzka do
opinion,
Polski była
the
dla mnie
move to
najlepszą
Poland was the
decyzją,
best decision
bo
for me.
ciągłe ostrzały,
Because
głośne
constant
dźwięki, alarmy przeciwlotnicze
shelling,
narażały moje
air
zdrowie
raid
psychiczne i
alarms was
szczerze
really
mówiąc czułam się
bearing on
okropnie.
my mental health, and I felt
W
terrible.
Polsce poczułam
In
się
Poland,
dużo
I felt
spokojniejszą.
much
To
calmer.
był łyk świeżego
It was a
powietrza.
breath of fresh air.
Jeśli chodzi o studia, to
as for
ukraińska edukacja od
university
początku
courses,
rosyjskiej
Ukrainian
inwazji
education from the
została
beginning
wstrzymana.
of Russian education was put
Zarówno uczniowie,
on
jak i
hold.
nauczyciele
Both the
pamiętają
students and
format
teachers
studiów
remember the
online,
format
od
of
początku
online
pandemii
courses from the
koronawirusa.
start of
Ale
the
teraz
coronavirus
jedyną
pandemic. But
różnicą
now
jest
the
to,
main
że
difference
ukraińscy
is that
nauczyciele muszą
Ukrainian
prowadzić
teachers
zajęcia
have
ze
to
schronisk i
provide
piwnic podczas
classes
nalotów i ostrzałów.
from air raid shelters
W kwietniu
and cellars during
2022
shelling.
roku
In the beginning of the year, from the whole group, 23 people, 3 to 5 people got here. Now we have 7 to 10 because many are working. Some entered the armed forces of Ukraine or are working as volunteers, and they don't have time to continue studying. And since there's active hostilities and there are interruptions in energy provision, they also further slow down the educational process. I am a student who's diligent and responsible, and from the very beginning of the course at the medical faculty, my main goal was the same, but this format of the courses does not allow me to fulfill my professional ambitions. So I'm trying to achieve that now in Poland. I took part in the Solidarity with Ukraine program at Warsaw Medical University. The classes started in May, thanks to which the first important friends in Poland that I met. I learned a lot. I learned about language, about the Polish culture, and those classes gave me motivation to continue learning the language. Now I'm learning medical terminology in Polish, and I'm preparing to continue the university courses in Poland. In February, I passed Polish language as a foreign language at B2. I'm still waiting for the results, but I feel good about this. I'm very happy that I took part in Solidarity with Ukraine program. I'm very happy for making it possible for me. Thank you for your attention.
І все на світі треба пережити, бо кожен фініш то
Yes, we have to survive things in the world. Every finish line is a start line as well, of sorts. And it's not a good thing to think about what's going to happen and what's going to be. Yes, I study Polish language at the University of Warmia-Mazuria, and also the same second year in Ivano-Frankivsk University in Ukraine. I have started I started with the Ukrainian poem that everything begins and everything ends. And that this date, the 24th of February, to me was the beginning and end. The first few days of the war is basically, I don't remember them at all. I was so stressed. I was so scared. I can't remember where I was, what I ate. But for several days, I sort of pulled up my socks and I decided to dedicate my time for volunteering. That I wasn't going to leave Ukraine. I was going to help people who were coming from eastern parts of Ukraine to my city. And more or less towards the end of March, I got some news from my professor from my university in Lviv that I could participate in an academic exchange program with Olsztyn in Poland. It didn't take me long to think about it. I decided to go, and I'm very happy that I came here. It took me a week to go to Olsztyn. I spent 2 months. And I studied with Polish students, and it was a great opportunity. I am so fired up. I want to learn, but in Ukraine we don't have this opportunity because lectures take place differently than before the war. And I'm very happy that I am here. I thank all of you who was in any way involved in me being able to be here, that I have an opportunity to study and that I can experience these students' years. Thank you. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Daria Demidova. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. Before the war, I lived in Kyiv. I was born there until I was 17, and then I moved to Lviv. And that's where I started my higher education at psychology faculty, at the philosophy department. And no one could even imagine what would happen in our country and whether we would be asking ourselves questions how to even exist. To my surprise, in the first days of the war, I was quite composed and I was trying to help everyone, support my nearest and dearest, my friends. Of course, like everywhere, and everyone showed their emotions, but I tried not to show my tears and worries to anyone. And regardless of what was going on, I decided to do all I could to help. So, however hard it was, I had to continue with my life and just keep on living. And I decided to continue my university education in Krakow at the Jagiellonian University. Now I know that this was my best decision in life. When I came to Poland, I didn't even know where I was going to live, and most importantly, I didn't know the language. And there was an uncertainty, hesitation, listening to others that I wouldn't succeed. Others would say that I should try a different university, but I just discarded all that and decided to continue with my studies. To be honest, I was shocked how quickly I reached the level B1 in the Polish language. And then, when I had 2 weeks until my interview, by some accident, I found a language course organized by NAVA, and that was the program Solidarity with Ukraine, and I met many interesting people there. And I became friends with them later on. And most importantly, this course allowed me to learn Polish at level B2, and I got to know the Polish culture even better. Thanks to the support from my teacher, I was sure of myself when I was going to my interview. And I think that this kind of help makes it possible to get closer to the culture of a country, or the country where you are, and at the same time allows you to get better adapted to the situation around you. Of course, everyone is different, and everyone has their own plans on how to lead their life. But based on my example, I want to say that support from the state, where you are not just live, but also continue your university education, is very important. As for prospects and opportunities, well, they encourage us to get as good results as possible in academia. But most of all, a lot depends on the person, on the person's character and perseverance, and the ability and these opportunities also allow us to attract people who are like us. And from the time when the war broke out, I came to a point where I realized you don't need to be scared. You need to seize the moment, to enjoy life, and most importantly, you need to live here and now. Thank you ever so much for your attention. Hello, everyone. My name is Mariana Petrivska. I study at the Warsaw University. And first of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me to this conference, because it is a valuable experience to me and a very important one. I would like to start with saying that when I came to Poland, I was completely lost. I didn't know what to do, where to go,
czy to, co robiłam przed wojną, jest ważne,
whether what I was
co
doing
w ogóle
before
w
the
życiu
war
ma
was even
sens.
important, what even makes any sense in life. There were a lot of questions,
Dużo mało odpowiedzi.
but very few answers.
I najciężej, jak mi
And
się wydaje,
I
jest
think
zrobić
that the
pierwszy
hardest
krok,
thing is to make the
czegoś
first
zacząć.
step and just start with
Przekroczyć swoje
something,
własne granice,
to overcome your own
swoje strachy.
limits, your own
I
fears.
właśnie moim pierwszym
And my
krokiem
first
stał
step
program Solidarnie z
was
Ukrainy,
the Solidarity with
któremu
Ukraine
jestem
program,
bardzo
and I'm
wdzięczna,
very grateful
bo
to it
przekroczyłam swoje
because
granice.
I overcame my
Dowiedziałam
limits.
się dużo
I learned
informacji
a
na temat
lot
życia i
about
studiowania w Polsce.
life and studying
Stała
in
się
Poland.
bardziej pewna
I
siebie.
became more sure of
Poznałam
myself.
nowych, cudownych
I learned
ludzi.
new, wonderful people.
I właśnie ten
I
projekt
met new
zmotywował
wonderful
mnie do
people.
działań
And
i
this
przedstawił mi
project, this
perspektywę
program
przyszłości.
motivated me to act
Będąc
and showed
w
me
Polsce,
prospects for the
ja
future.
zdecydowałam, że chcę
And being in
studiować
Poland, I
ukrainistykę,
decided to
chociaż
study
przed
the
tym,
Ukrainian
w ogóle uczyłam się w
language and
Akademii
literature, although previously I studied at
I
the
chcę
Academy of
studiować
Music.
ukrainistykę, żeby
I wanted to
więcej
study
i więcej
Ukrainian because I
dowiadywać się o
wanted to
swoim
learn
kraju,
more and
o
more
swoim
about my
języku,
country,
i o
my
swojej
language
kulturze.
and my culture,
I żeby móc przedstawić
in
Ukrainę
order to
bliżej innym
present
ludziom także.
Ukraine to other people in closer terms, because today we can all see how the enemy wants to destroy everything that is related to Ukraine. But we, every one of us, will not allow it to happen because everyone is fighting at their own front line. And I believe in the victory of Ukraine, and I know that the knowledge that I gain here will help me in rebuilding my country. Thank you.
Bardzo Paniom dziękujemy
Thank you
za
very
te
much
poruszające
for these
świadectwa.
moving testimonies.
A teraz przechodzimy
And
do
now
pierwszego
over to
panelu
the first
dyskusyjnego,
discussion
który
panel,
nosi tytuł
which is entitled
Międzynarodowa
International
współpraca
Cooperation
uczelniana
of
jako
Universities
instrument
as an
przeciwdziałania
instrument
kryzysom
for
społecznym. Panel poprowadzi profesor Jerzy Lis, rektor Akademii Górniczo-Hutniczej imienia Stanisława Staszica w Krakowie, koordynator działań KRAS związanych z sytuacją w Ukrainie, członek zespołu europejskiego Stowarzyszenia Uniwersytetów
University
do spraw
Association's task force
ukraińskich
to support the
uniwersytetów.
reconstruction of higher
Thank you
education
for your
in Ukraine.
testimonies. And now we would like to invite to the first discussion under the title International University Cooperation as an Instrument for Counteracting Social Crisis. The panel will be led by Professor Jerzy Lis, rector of AGH University of Science and Technology in Kraków, coordinator of activities related to the situation in Ukraine of the Conference of Rectors of Academic Schools in Poland, member of the team of the European Association of Universities for the Reconstruction of Ukrainian Universities.
Zapraszamy pana profesora na scenę. Zapraszamy również
to invite Professor Jerzy Lis and the panelists, Professor Arkadiusz Mężyk, rector of the Silesian University of Technology, president of the Conference of Rectors of Academic Schools in Poland.
Arkadiusz Mężyk, rector of the Silesian University of Technology in Katowice, chairman of the Conference of Rectors of Academic Schools in Poland.
Panią profesor Martę Kosior-Kazberuk, rektor Politechniki
Białystok University of Technology.
Profesor Marta Kosior-Kazberuk, rector of the Białystok University of Technology.
Profesora Grzegorza Mazurka, rektora Akademii Leona Koźmińskiego w Warszawie.
Profesor Grzegorz Mazurek, rector of the Koźmiński University in Warsaw.
Profesor Agnieszkę Kurczewską, prorektor Uniwersytetu Łódzkiego do spraw współpracy z otoczeniem.
Profesor Agnieszka Kurczewska, Vice Rector for Cooperation with the Environment of the University of Łódź.
Profesora Borysa Samorodowa, prorektora Charkowskiego Uniwersytetu Narodowego imienia Wasyla Karazina.
Profesor Borys Samorodow, Vice Rector of Karazin Kharkiv National University.
Professor Volodymyr Bugrow, rector of the
Taras Shevchenko National University of Kyiv, vice president of the Union of Rectors of Ukrainian Universities.
Professor Volodymyr Bugrow, rector of the National University of Taras Shevchenko in Kyiv, vice president of the Union of Rectors of Universities in Ukraine.
Oraz pana Piotra Semeniuka,
Piotr Semeniuk, director of the Department of International Cooperation at the Ministry of Education and Science.
Mr. Piotr Semeniuk, director of the Department of International Cooperation at the Ministry of Education and Science of Poland.
Bardzo dziękuję.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to all of you. Welcome to the esteemed panelists. After this first part of today's meeting, yes, it's difficult not to be emotional and to just calmly move on to a panel, to our next contributions. This panel is titled quite formally, you know quite well, Mr. Director here.
Myślę, że
But
będziemy
I think that we are
kontynuować
just going to
tą
continue this
atmosferę pełną
atmosphere
emocji,
full of
pełną
emotions,
wzruszeń,
full of being
pełną
moved,
pięknych przykładów
of beautiful
pomocy,
examples of help,
która na pewno
which certainly
mieści się w haśle
fits
współpraca
within
międzynarodowa.
international
Natomiast
cooperation.
Dziękuję jeszcze raz
So,
Pani i Panom
I
panelistom
thank you once
za
again
udział
for
w
participating
tej części
in this
konferencji.
part of the conference.
Powiedzieć coś,
I
co
would like to
może jest
say
formalne, ale
something
jest
that is
oczywiste.
formal perhaps, but it is
Jesteśmy
self-evident.
w stanie
We are
bardzo głębokiego,
in a state
bardzo
of very deep
gwałtownego
and very violent
i bardzo nietypowego
and
w
unusual
ostatnim czasie kryzysu.
crisis.
Kryzys to jest
A crisis
coś
is
nieoczekiwanego,
something unexpected.
negatywnego,
Negative.
przerwanie pewnej
It's a
tradycji,
disruption of a
przerwanie
certain
pewnych
tradition,
działań.
of certain
To jest coś, co
activities.
wymaga
It is something that requires
spontaniczności, szybkich
being spontaneous,
rozwiązań i
thinking
na
on
pewno
your
ma
feet,
wpływ na przyszłość.
and certainly
Drodzy Państwo, przecież rok
has an
temu
influence on the
spotkaliśmy się
future.
tutaj
We
na
met
pierwszej
here a
konferencji.
year ago at the first conference,
sytuacja od tego
and the
czasu naprawdę się
situation
zmieniła.
has changed really since
Ta
that time.
sytuacja narasta
The situation
i
escalates,
jest nietypowa,
and it
jeszcze
is
bardziej głęboka
not
niż te kryzysy,
typical.
które
It is
mieliśmy
even
ostatnio.
deeper
Przecież
than the crisis
nie tak dawno,
that we
3 lata
just
temu
had.
mieliśmy
Not so long ago, 3
COVID-19,
years
który zdawało się,
ago,
że
we had
zniszczy
COVID-19.
porządek tego
It
świata.
would seem that it would
Też
destroy
nietypowe
the
działania,
order of
też
this world. We
bardzo
had very
gwałtowne reakcje.
unusual measures,
A teraz
very
na skutek
rapid responses.
strasznej agresji
And now,
Rosji na
due to the
Ukrainę,
horrid
mamy największy
aggression
kryzys w
of
Europie
Russia on
po
Ukraine,
II
we have
wojnie
the
światowej.
biggest crisis in Europe
Sytuacja,
after
która
World War
z
II.
jednej
A
strony
situation which on the
wymaga
one hand requires
takich działań, jak
such
tutaj widzieliśmy,
measures as we have seen,
spontanicznych, pełnych serca,
spontaneous,
odważnych, pomocowych.
heart-filled
A z
and
drugiej też wymaga pewnej
measures,
refleksji,
and
pewnego
also
spojrzenia,
it also
dlatego, że ten
requires a
kryzys
certain
trwa i trzeba
reflection,
z niego wyjść.
because the crisis continues
Ten
and we need
kryzys
to get out of it. The
oddziaływuje na
crisis
całą
influences
sytuację
the entire
geopolityczną
geopolitical
świata, a
situation
zwłaszcza Europy,
of the
zwłaszcza
world, and
nas.
especially Europe, especially us.
Widzimy, że odradzają
You
się
can see
demony zimnej wojny.
demons of Cold
Odradza
War
się
raising their heads
populizm
again.
I negatywne
Populism
reakcje,
with
nie
negative
tylko w Europie.
responses, not just in Europe.
To może być negatywny
This may
katalizator
be a negative catalyst
złych zmian
for
w
bad
naszej
changes
cywilizacji.
in our
I dlatego
civilization. That's
proponujemy
why what we
w tym panelu
propose in this panel
popatrzeć
is to
na
look
ten kryzys
at
i na
this
rozwiązanie
crisis
tego
at
kryzysu,
solving this
tak jak było
crisis
poprzednio, pozytywnie,
like we
opierając się
saw
na
before, in
tym, co
positive
jest
terms,
najważniejsze, na
while
solidarności,
being based on
tak
what's the
ważne
most
w tej
important,
chwili.
solidarity, so important
Na
here in
pomocy,
this place,
na
on helping
przyjaźni,
out, on
na
friendship,
współpracy,
on
na
collaboration,
pozytywnej współpracy
on
międzynarodowej.
working
I dlatego
together
chciałbym
between nations.
w tym panelu,
Internationally.
żeby Państwo
So I would like
wymienili się
this panel
swoimi
to be an exchange
doświadczeniami.
of your experience.
Tymi
I
pozytywnymi
would like you to
doświadczeniami,
exchange your
pokazując,
positive
że ta
experience,
współpraca
to show that
międzynarodowa
international
jest
cooperation
naszym
is indeed
rozwiązaniem.
our
I między
solution
nami, między Ukrainą,
between
Polską, ale
us,
także
between
szerzej.
Poland and Ukraine, but also in wider terms.
Rozpoczynając dyskusję,
I would
myślę, że
like to start this discussion with the boss of bosses,
rektora Arkadiusza
Rector
Mężyka,
Arkadiusz
rektora
Mężyk,
Politechniki
who
Śląskiej,
is
a
rector
przede
of the
wszystkim
Silesian University of Technology, but most of all, he is the
Konferencji
president
Rektorów
of the
Akademickich
Conference
Szkół
of Rectors of
Pytając,
Academic Schools in Poland.
jak z perspektywy
And I would like to ask,
naszych
from
uczelni
the perspective of
stowarzyszonych,
our
czyli
associated
pewnej sieci
universities,
organizacji uczelni
within
wygląda
this network of universities,
współpraca międzynarodowa,
what does
już nie
international
między
cooperation
Polską a
look like?
Ukrainą,
Not
ale
just
może
between
szerzej.
Poland and Ukraine, but
W
in
Europie,
wider
na
terms,
świecie,
in Europe, worldwide,
Które rozwiązania
and
według
which
pana
solutions,
rektora
in your opinion,
są takie, które już
are
dzisiaj można
such
pokazać
that can
jako te,
already be
które nie
demonstrated
tylko
today
pozwalają wyjść z
as
kryzysu,
those
ale
that
będą budować
allow
nową
us to get
przyszłość.
out of
Panie
crisis, but
rektorze.
also to build new future.
Dziękuję bardzo.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing me to participate in this panel. Yes, indeed, this first part was very moving, especially the contributions from the students who have experienced firsthand the tragedy in their country, and they were enabled to continue studying in Poland. The Conference of Rectors of Academic Schools focuses 109 universities. But when the war started, we might say that we were prepared well in terms of logistics to respond to this difficult situation, because when the pandemic happened, we built a network of coordinators to coordinate crisis measures. 109 universities, but the network of 370 public and non-public institutions, academic, non-academic, institutes of Polish Academy of Sciences. We have to emphasize very close collaboration with the Polish Academy of Sciences right from the first days of the war. The Polish Academy of Sciences PAS has put in a lot of effort in building relationships between Polish and Ukrainian researchers, and a lot of such activities were taken up. So the Conference of Rectors of Academic Schools in Poland, that is called CRAS, had this organizational structure that could help, and these structures were used to great effect. Like we heard today during the presentations today, first these were individual measures. IRK Ukraine, the IT system is what we built to enable individuals to get in touch with the Polish higher education system, to look for opportunities to continue their studies and research activities. With time, these priorities changed, and we have always, all the time, been using our previous experience from a collaboration with the Foundation of Polish Rectors and the Association of Ukrainian Rectors and Polish-Ukrainian project that was carried out at the time. So these contacts were very close at the time, including those between the Association of Rectors, technical universities rectors in Ukraine, and the conference in Poland of technical universities. So we had these contacts, and we were trying to help in the most effective way.
Most importantly, we tried to utilize the positive energy and build positive relations, because in those difficult times, it's the most important thing, as Rector Lis said. The times are difficult, the times are dark, but all of those reactions of the heart, movements of the heart, the commitment of the scientific and research community are highly valuable and worth maintaining. We have to say that these were unique actions on European scale, because at the same time we are members of the European University Association, EUA, and they were looking at our activities with great interest. That's how we managed to have Ukrainian university to be accepted by EUA, and we have a task team that Rector Lis is a member of. It's a task team which, thanks to our close contacts with the Ukrainian universities, allows us to pass on the needs which are the most urgent in terms of the Ukrainian higher education system. But of course, as the war continues, as the infrastructure is being degraded for research institutes and universities, those changes change. In the very beginning, we had a very important meeting in Warsaw on the 25th anniversary of CRAS, June last year, during which the chairman of EUA was present, and we were discussing how to, first and foremost, we could assist Ukrainian universities and the Ukrainian academia community in maintaining their potential and developing that potential, and also in building the relations with the European university system. Of course, at that time we communicated the thought that we are not interested in draining the brains, taking over students and researchers, but we would like to
te wspólne badania w
join
taki sposób,
in
żeby budować
with
relacje, które będą owocowały
mutual
w przyszłości
joint
bardzo dobrą
relations
pomiędzy
and
ośrodkami
researchers,
naukowymi
building
i
relations for the
akademickimi.
future,
I
to
pierwsze
create
efekty
good
tego
collaboration
widać.
in the
Rok
future
temu
between academic
spotykaliśmy
centers.
się
We've
na
already
tej
seen
sali
the
w
first
przyjemnej
results. Half a
atmosferze. To
year
były takie
ago we
doraźne
met
bardzo
here,
działania,
here
które
a little
odnosiły się
differently.
do
These were
pomocy
ad hoc activities that were
głównie
related
takich
mainly to
humanitarnych.
providing
W tej chwili już
humanitarian
myślimy
aid.
systemowo.
Right now we are thinking
Ten system,
systemically.
który udało się wtedy stworzyć, zaczyna
The system
działać.
that we
To
created
już są
then is
pierwsze
beginning
wspólne
to
projekty, to są
function.
projekty
These are the
stażowe,
first
to są
joint projects,
artykuły w czasopismach
internships,
naukowych,
articles
to jest wymiana
in scientific
studentów. I
journals,
myślę, że w tym kierunku
student
powinniśmy
exchange, and I think
zdążać.
this
My
is where
również
we
jako
should be
konferencja
going.
rektorów akademickich szkół
As
polskich
CRASP, we also
wykorzystujemy te nasze
use
kontakty
our
europejskie z
contacts,
innymi konferencjami.
European
W grudniu
contacts
mieliśmy
with the other
spotkanie
conferences. In
z
December we had
przewodniczącym
a meeting with the
konferencji
chairman of the Conference of Rectors from
Francji, na którym
Germany and
dyskutowaliśmy
France,
bieżące
during which we
problemy i
discussed
potrzeby,
current issues and current needs,
które należy zaspokajać.
which
W tym czasie
needed
to
to
były
be
agregaty
satisfied. At that
prądotwórcze,
time, these
infrastruktura
was
energetyczna była zniszczona,
power
więc
generated
cała
because
taka
the
akcja związana
power
z
infrastructure
dostarczaniem
was
źródeł energii, aby
seriously
można było w trybie
destroyed.
zdalnym
So
prowadzić zajęcia.
power was needed in order
Myślę,
to
że z tych
conduct
wypowiedzi naszych
remote
studentów też wynika
classes.
widać
I think
jasno, że
just
że
from
system
what
zdalny
the
jest
students were saying,
dobry do
we
takiego
can see that
chwilowego
remote system is good for
łatania,
temporary
problemów, natomiast
patching
patrząc
of problems, but looking
na rozwój
at
systemu
the
szkolnictwa
development
wyższego
of the
i nauki musimy
university
pomyśleć, w
and
jaki
research
sposób
system,
zorganizować
we
współpracę,
have
tak żeby ona
to
była
think how to
ogólnie
organize collaboration that
korzystna.
it's beneficial
To jak
for both
musimy
parties.
uruchomić systemy
Which sort of
staży,
systems of
szkół
internships
letnich, możliwości
you should
dostępu
start,
do laboratoriów
summer
w
schools,
polskich
access
uczelniach,
to
tak żeby
laboratories in
tę
Polish
część kompetencji, które
universities, so
muszą
that some of the
być
competencies
zdobyte
that have
w
to be
bezpośrednim kontakcie z
achieved
nauczycielem
indirect
i w dostępie do
face-to-face
aparatury
contact
badawczej,
with the
żeby
academic
to
teacher and
zrealizować.
access to
W
research
zeszłym
and
tygodniu
laboratory
rozmawiałem z
equipment
przewodniczącym
to be able to be done.
przed
Last year I was
konferencją
talking to the
rektorów
conference of
niemieckich,
German
tam jest w tej chwili
rectors.
zmiana
There's a
przewodniczącego,
change of
bo
chairman
to był
going on
ostatni
there.
dzień,
This was the last day
urzędowania
in
byłego
office of the
przewodniczącego. Teraz
former
jest okres
chairman.
między wyborami, ale
Now this
konferencja
is
działa,
between
zaprosiłem
elections,
go
but
do
the conference
współpracy
is
z
still
naszą siecią
functioning.
i
So I invited them
obiecał,
to work with
że na
our
najbliższe
network.
spotkanie
He
połączy
promised
się
that during the
z
next meeting
koordynatorami.
he's going to
Ta sieć działa, jest
connect to the
wspierana w ramach
coordinators.
zadania zleconego Ministerstwa
network
Edukacji i Nauki,
works.
dzięki
It's
temu mamy
supported
środki na to,
by
żeby
a
tę
project
działalność
from the Ministry of Science.
skutecznie
So we have some
i
resources to
efektywnie prowadzić. A zatem
effectively
staramy się
and
wysieciować
efficiently
już teraz nie
continue
tylko
this
krajowo,
activity.
ale
We're trying to
zaczynamy
network
wychodzić do
ourselves
tych
not
naszych
only on the
partnerów
national scale, but
zagranicznych,
we're reaching
którzy
out
są
to foreign
zainteresowani
partners
tą
who are
współpracą,
interested in working with
poszukiwać
us.
takich
We're
rozwiązań,
looking
które
for
będą
such
optymalne z
solutions
punktu
that are
widzenia
going to
potrzeb
be best from the point of view of the needs of the university education system in Ukraine. Maybe that's for
Dziękuję,
the
panie
beginning.
rektorze.
Thank you,
Chciałbym podobne
Rector.
pytanie skierować
I'd
do
like to
naszego
address a
gościa,
similar question
magnificencji
to our guest.
pana rektora
His
Wołodymira
magnificent,
Bugrowa, rektora Narodowego
Professor
Uniwersytetu
Volodymyr
imienia
Bugrow,
Tarasa
rector of the
Szewczenki
Taras
i
Shevchenko
wiceprzewodniczącego
University in
Związku
Kiev and
Rektorów
vice president of the
Uczelni
Union of
Wyższej. Panie
Rectors of
rektorze,
Ukrainian universities. Mr.
jak
Rector,
ta współpraca międzynarodowa,
how does this international
jak ta
collaboration,
pomoc
how does this
polskich uczelni
help
i
or
innych
support from the Polish
pomaga wam
universities and other
przetrwać w
universities
tak trudnym
is
czasie?
helping
Ten
us to
heroizm
survive the very
jest wspaniały.
difficult time.
Bardzo
Your heroic
proszę
attitude is wonderful.
gorącą
So
wypowiedź.
please tell us.
Panie profesorze.
Thank you very much,
Panie ministrze,
Professor,
panie
Mr.
голово,
Minister,
Wasze magnificencje,
magnificencies.
хотів би передати вітання від Петра Кулікова.
For starters, I wanted to pass a question from Petr Polikov, president of the Rector Association, and our colleagues who are members.
Сказати, що та допомога, яка була упродовж
In the association, I wanted to say that the support provided from Poland from the beginning of the year is invaluable. I'll start talking right away about the three levels, because we talked about the geopolitical aspect of this support, and Professor Mężyk also mentioned the political aspect, and this is the part that I'd like to start with. Professor Mężyk talked about the declaration of CRASP, about the declarations from the respective German Association of Rectors and French universities, the French Associations of Rectors, and that was in October last year. That's when there was a political conference in Berlin and the G7 group meeting. The joint declaration was highly important, mainly because while we understand that Europe and the whole world is part of that initiative, Ukraine is best understood by Poland because Poland used to be occupied by the Soviet Union. Ukraine is best understood by the Baltics, who also had been occupied by the Soviet Union. Ukraine is best understood by Czechia and Slovakia. Again, countries which experienced aggression from the Soviet Union. Other countries find it more difficult to understand Ukraine because in their historical experience, their experience is absent from this type of aggression and this type of terror. So here the contribution of the Conference of Rectors and each individual university is again invaluable. So we are all hoping that you will continue the lobbying which is needed. And in 2 weeks' time, there will be a conference of the General Polish European University Association, which also provides room. This is an event which previously took place in Budapest. Our colleague, Alexandra Smirnova, as a member of the Association for Support for Ukraine, she had an intervention. The talks in your parliament also all emphasizing the fact that this is one of the most important paths for achieving positive pressure on the political decision makers in each European country or even across the ocean. Of course, each country has some sort of items on the agenda, but war is always a major challenge. And as my colleague rightly observed, it's a change of the worldview for the whole world, not just for Ukraine. The picture of the world changed. The way we lived until the 24th of February is gone. Last week, I had the opportunity to visit Kharkiv, and from Kharkiv, I would go to a little town in this oblast, which is called Izium, because we have a branch of one of our universities. It's called College of Applied Sciences and Mechanics. At the moment, it does not exist. I mean, what does not exist is the plant that used to produce optical devices. So the branch is also gone. And the mayor of that city, of that town, or mayor of Izium, when we asked him, please note his response, when we asked him, should we rebuild that college? He said no. Because there are no people. It's all a gray zone. 70 kilometers away from the border with Russia. Russian soldiers entered that territory on the third day of the invasion on foot. 70 kilometers away from the border. So when we asked him, in the context of education, this university is something that contributes to building the city. He said, no, nobody's coming back. It's all retired, old age pensioners. So in response to what Director Menzik said, yes, the picture of the world has changed. We were in Kiev, we were in Kharkiv, where the situation was difficult. But when Kiev was difficult, when we went to Kharkiv, life is completely different. So education, life, collaborations between our universities today is the driver, the driving force for new geopolitics, the driving force for new political decisions. And today in Ukraine, we have some new considerations about picture about how we imagined the country for the future. Because after each war, each country is focused on looking for landmines and explosives. We had some information from rescue services that if after World War II this lasted 20 years, looking for buried explosives, this year it would probably require 150 years, because the industrial part of Ukraine was in the east. It was completely ruined. The agricultural regions, Kherson, Nikolaev, and Zaporozhia, are in the south. The arable land is covered with mines. So the IT potential, technology, these are the new directions. These are the areas which will really be shaping new Ukraine. So in summary, I wanted to say and emphasize once again that the support provided by CRASP, the fund, the Organization of Polish Red Cross, Ms. Rena is here. We talked about the projects and financing, things that we do already this year and continue irrespective of the circumstances. I think that the area of social communications, the area of this area of research, I hope that the students that were speaking today on stage will be able to return to the country, not only with the newfound knowledge, but also with newfound life experience, and provide the foundations for the reconstruction of new Ukraine. In summary, last but not least, and I'll switch to English here so it's clear for all the colleagues.
All brave defenders of Ukraine who make possible our participation in this forum. Slava Ukraini!
Sława Ukrainie. Pan rektor słusznie powiedział, że my nie jesteśmy tylko świadkami nowej ery i nowych rozwiązań. Jesteśmy twórcami tego. Dlatego niemożliwe by było działanie tylko uczelni, a bardzo ważne jest to, co robią nasze rządy, nasze ministerstwa. Dlatego bardzo proszę, cieszę się, że jest z nami pan Piotr Semeniuk, dyrektor Departamentu Współpracy Międzynarodowej Ministerstwa Edukacji i Nauki. Panie dyrektorze, co według pana było najważniejsze w tym gorącym okresie i co w tej chwili dzieje się na płaszczyźnie współpracy, także z przyjaciółmi, z Ministerstwem Edukacji Ukrainy, bez działań systemowych, pewnym doświadczeniem na przyszłość nie byłoby tej sytuacji, w której jesteśmy. Pozytywnie oczywiście.
Dobry dzień, dzień dobry. Wielce szanowni panowie rektorzy, magnificencie, szanowni państwo, rzeczywiście 24 luty ubiegłego roku zmienił wiele. Wcześniej, gdy mówiono, że to się dzieje przed wojną, no to myśleliśmy o naszych ojcach, dziadkach, dzisiaj wiemy, że to mówimy, co było rok temu. Przede wszystkim chciałem skorzystać z okazji i podziękować naszym gościom z Ukrainy. Myślę, że Ukrainy dziękują nam Polakom za wiele tutaj za pomoc. Natomiast faktem jest,
The truth is,
to, co robią uczelnie
what the universities
na Ukrainie,
Ukrainian universities do in Ukraine,
również dla nas wielkim
is
przykładem,
also for us a great example of what it means to be a free human being. Thank you for your testimony, not only at university but also at the front line. We know that dying at the front line during hostilities are also researchers and students. I'm happy that we are able to see your Ukrainian students here in Gdansk, but they also gave us the example that I continue to work for free Ukraine. I also wanted to thank you and the academia of Poland and the rectors that from day one you created the opportunities to provide support to our Ukrainian brothers. And I know that especially when you are looking at CRASP and other agencies, the foundations, rectors, Polish Academy of Sciences, ICN, and NAVA that we talked about, because as you know, NAWA is financed by our ministry. So I can also say that I'm really coming here for an inspection, as it were. I can see that the resources and the way you allocate are effectively serving Polish and world and Ukrainian science. Thank you for establishing the crisis team under CRASP, and as Ministry also appointed a crisis team which was operational 24/7. And some of the activities that we used to undertake are known, but I'd like to give the figures. So for today we have 28,000 students from Ukraine and Poland that came to Poland after the war started, of which 18,000 are intramural students. So altogether we have 36,000 students. Researchers, we have 1,100 members of academia from Ukraine. When we talk about the involvement of the Polish government, the government spent since last year 2 billion zlotys from the government budget to support the education and science in Ukraine. I have to say that this is support that we're providing without EU support. As you know, we've had certain turbulences. We know that the money is needed at the moment. We work all the time with the Ministry of Science and Education in Ukraine, and we have many bilateral meetings and also other wider areas, and we always emphasize the importance of this collaboration. The first meeting, that's my personal impression, when we met first with our partners from West Europe and other parts of the world, the conflict seemed to be very distant for them. It was like a joke from many years ago. You know, there was a joke going around. What do you do when there is a problem gathering grain from the communists? So what happens then? Then the communist committee gets together and talks. So together with other ministries and Ministry of Education in Ukraine, we emphasize that it's not enough to pass a resolution that we are in solidarity with Ukraine. We are planning to rebuild universities. Sometimes you have to choose war. You have to sometimes go back to the starting point, and this is happening. Back to basics. An interesting example for me personally was, I think it was about half a year ago, one of the meetings, a European scale meeting. My counterpart, the new Minister of Science, Dmytro Zakharovny, we had a meeting online, and he connected from his office, which, ladies and gentlemen, after the last shelling, was such that there was a visible gaping hole in the wall. We're sitting normally in a building, and this is the Ministry of Education of Ukraine. There's a gaping hole in the wall behind him after a bombing. So it's not an abstract thing. It's real. Let's go further. We have a lot of bilateral and multilateral activities. Last week we had a meeting between the Polish and Romanian governments in Bucharest, where we're thinking, sorry, it's next week, we'll be thinking what to do. Together, Ministry of Ukraine, we're presenting our joint activities at the UN forum. You know that in the UN is not entirely Europe. The interest of Asian and African countries means that their perspective is very far. And I'm always saying, no, this is really close. So thank you for what you're doing, and I hope we'll be working together. Thank you, Director. And I also, as part of EUA, when I present examples of the activities of the Ministry and NAWA, etc.,
Dla naszych kolegów z Europy trudne do uwierzenia.
To our colleagues from Europe, this is hard to believe. We do new things, and I think that what our ministries do, especially our ministry, is breaking through a certain barrier and a new barrier in international cooperation, the most important cooperation that comes from the heart and the need. Now, thank you once again. Mr. Director, now moving on to the rectors from 4 universities, 3 from Poland, 1 from Ukraine. We are coming back, so to speak, to those activities that happen at universities. I would like you to present your reflections, well, perhaps reports from what you do at this point and how it develops a year on in trying to break through this crisis. Rector of the Białystok University of Technology, Professor Marta Kosiorka-Zberuk. Over to you. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me to this panel. Now, referring to what Professor Lis has said, a crisis never happens in a continuous, in a regular way, and it's never has a regular coverage. A crisis always causes material damage, moral damage, and also, unfortunately, it creates pathologies. If a crisis continues for a long time, and the longer it takes place, and we have a very lengthy crisis and we can't see an end to it, well, the more the social consequences are more difficult and more challenging. And any crisis has to be considered in a social aspect, because it's the people who cause it, and people, unfortunately, are victims to its effects. I think that any measures taken up by Polish universities, and by this I mean right from the start, material help, financial help, and most of all, finding places at our universities for students and faculty from Ukrainian universities are immensely important in, let's say, preventing, perhaps not so much, but at least alleviating the consequences of this crisis. Students have an opportunity to spend more time at our universities. Students, doctoral candidates, those who even use summer schools, and we have heard how important it is to them today. But from my discussions, conversations with the staff and faculty and authorities of Ukrainian universities, it follows how important it is to sustain and develop international cooperation between Polish and Ukrainian universities. And I'm here, I'm emphasizing the word development, because our contacts have not been limited. Quite the contrary. New agreements were signed to enable international cooperation. We are opening up our universities and laboratories to this collaboration. And importantly, using the programs that are offered by the NAVA Academy or Erasmus Plus or other agendas, we can invite researchers and academic authorities. All those who visit our universities emphasize how important it is for them to visit. Yes, we talked about exchange. Today, the word exchange is not so much justified, because mobility happens one way, but we are all counting on true exchange being re-established at some point. But as people who come here emphasize, for example, under International Training Week in Erasmus+, that's first of all being able to detach from the wartime reality and to spend some time at a different university. So that's maintaining a sense of normalcy, of contacts with what should be the essence of our life at universities. And moreover, what our partners from Ukraine emphasize is that we should communicate the help that we provide. Why should we boast about it? Well, we should do it. Propaganda at war is very important, and this is the good kind of propaganda. which it seems is in great need. And when there are visits from faculties and staff of Ukrainian universities, we can learn firsthand about the situation at our universities, about the real situation in Ukraine. And referring to what Minister Rzymkowski said, we mainly put a premium on cooperation and developing it rather than talent drain. This is not our goal at all. This is another important thing. Partnership in various activities related to helping Ukraine. Here I would like to say a little bit about a project that the Białystok University of Technology was invited to as a partner, that is a UA residency plot that is dedicated to young Ukrainians who are in Poland now, and the aim is for young Ukrainians to use their competences and develop them with the help of international tutors, so that they can design the future of their country, so that during the workshops they can consider and create social innovations that will help them in rebuilding Ukraine after the war. And here the topics are interesting, and they were taken up during the Ukrainian stay in Białystok in Supraśl. This is where the workshops took place, in the town of Supraśl. So that was healing cities, reclaiming the nights and revitalizing education. But all that was possible due to the engagement of universities, culture institutions, government agencies, local government, and business. And given such a lengthy conflict, such a lengthy crisis, and such consequences of this crisis, we have to consider mechanisms and tools which will help us to use various competencies of various institutions. So the measures from universities are important. Let's sustain them, especially that, for example, at KRAS, we are able to create these teams to help. But let's look for consortia with other institutions, organizations, because this will help us more. We are even stronger together. We have more competencies and bigger capacities. I think this is the most important. These are the most important matters that I would like to emphasize.
Dziękuję bardzo, pani rektor.
Thank you very much, Madam Rector.
A jakie są doświadczenia
Now, what is the
Uniwersytetu
experience from
Łódzkiego?
the University of Łódź?
Pani prorektor,
Over to
profesor
Madam Vice
Agnieszka
Rector,
Kurczewska.
Professor Agnieszka Kurczewska. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you very much for the topic of this panel. These questions are important, obviously, but they are also very difficult. Now, sharing this experience, we will look for the most universal and systemic solutions that really do translate onto change. I would like to share some reflections with you that come from my experience at the University of Łódź. I'm wondering whether the international cooperation changed in the face of crisis. And I think that it has. I think it keeps changing. It has been revised to great extent, but I think it is more conscious, first of all, secondly more mature, and thirdly more widely discussed and less auto-thematic, because I think that more and more frequently when we ask a question on whether we will collaborate with this or that university or partner, we don't look mainly or exclusively at their academic prestige, recognizability or visibility of that partner, but we look at their ethics and how they behave. Please don't misunderstand me, it has always been considered, but now it has become the primary question when you want to establish collaboration with your partners. And this is something new and something that we need to learn. Working internationally with various entities is different. We've heard about digitization, that we can talk about it. Every one of us probably had an opportunity to talk to someone in Ukraine, and several kilometers away there were shells falling on the place. So that happens. That's a very real life. This is a digitized world, but this is very tangible. The international collaboration, yes, well, I'm sort of jumping from topic to topic, but it's a very wide area. International cooperation also showed us new leaders at universities, because we have a constant group which handles research cooperation, but extending international cooperation with very realistic, real-life helping needs has engaged more of our staff. So this collaboration is extending, reaching wider circles in academia, and this is beautiful, and I think we can be really moved about it, moved with it. And I think my brief reflection should also include at least two things. One is that when preparing for this panel, I had an overview of all the activities at the University of Łódź over the past 14 months. There's a lot of it. I can't list all of it. Some of these measures are very similar. They all do the same things. But when I started to list those activities, I saw a typology of those measures. We have ad hoc activities, we have systemic measures. Very often those ad hoc measures with time become systemic. We have direct measures and we have indirect measures. We have prospective and retrospective measures. So before a problem emerges, when we prepare for it in advance, or we respond once it has happened. We have activities that are more symbolic and such that they really are a kind of intervention. So there are many of them. Before the crisis that happened because of COVID, but most of all due to Russia's aggression on Ukraine, we didn't have them before. So the portfolio of our instruments has extended greatly, and it is a good thing to be aware of it. The second reflection is that we as universities in Poland, not just in Poland, but I know more about the Polish reality, we have been saying for some time here how important it is for universities to be in community and for the community. This is our strategy. Our mission statements usually list solidarity as our values. And I need to say that this year has very tangibly showed us the strength of those words. And I think that we have demonstrated a different side of universities, a human side of universities. And this is also a counterbalance. We often talk about scores, rankings, evaluations. Everyone at universities knows what this is about, but this is a very human side of universities that helps out, that gets engaged, that provides reliable knowledge, that can respond and give good example and intervene. And this is very valuable. So once internationalizing, we work in science and research, engage engaged research that we are talking about so much. And now it was used to be a term, now we understand what it is about. So internationalization in education. Bilaterally, we have to prepare our students for them to be responsible citizens. And secondly, students from Ukraine. We have to prepare them to reconstruct their country in the future. We need to make sure that our experts have a say, that they can tell people how possible certain things are. So we are working in 3 areas very strongly. We are showing the human face of academia, and I would like to emphasize very strongly that we feel the responsibility. And this is a key word here. Universities and the work of universities has spread so much geographically and socially that we as management have to cope with this responsibility. Because the scope of responsibility is different and the scale is different, so the intellectual dimension of what we do has been reinforced, and fora like the one today are very good because we share experiences. Let me give you one more example in a moment. But this is all very good because we have to talk it over, colloquially speaking, because it's very important. Very briefly, what we have done is we opened a new course in May. Everyone knows what it means to go through all the formalities to open a course in May. One from students in Ukraine, where they learn Polish and English at the same time so that they can get to level B2 at least, and this course is very popular. Of course, we have grants, some of the funds that we have, EDUP funds that we can provide them to researchers. There's a lot happening in the symbolic layer. So that is expressing statements from the rector, flags and agreements. All of you have been doing it. We have a special group, a support fund. And to conclude, I would like to say that emotions are always there. When I was listening today to the students, I was very moved. But I think that with time, heart is joined by the mind. So first, originally the measures were sort of chaotic, and now more and more a system emerges. But all of us need to create it as institutions, as universities. In solidarity, we can really do a lot, also across Europe. And I agree with Mr. Rector that I think this is our mission, that we need to explain to Western Europe what is indeed happening here and what is needed. And this is where we need to be heading. Thank you, Madam Rector. Beautiful words, also describing how we are changing. And perhaps it may sound strange, but we thank our friends from Ukraine. And we are changing as well, and this is our mission too. Our offices have changed. We are changing personally. Professor Grzegorz Mazurek, rector of the Koźmiński University in Warsaw. Grzegorz is a university which is very flexible and very open and very well known, and known for its new ideas. How do you work in this new cooperation with Ukraine and beyond? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. There's little time left, so I will try to be very brief and tell you about a few things. First of all, something that may be shocking, but I think that Agnieszka also talked about it from our perspective, the perspective of Ukraine and Poland. What is happening now is the most important, and we have to do all we can in order to help each other and one another in this situation. But when we are now traveling, and I was a couple of conferences abroad as well, I have to tell you that the world sees the Ukraine conflict as one of the many problems in the world, and what to us seems the first priority, it isn't so in other parts of the world. And this seemingly sad conclusion is to us, I think, a an alarm bell that in business it's not time that matters but timing. And I personally believe that it is the last moment now to communicate to the international community the enormous role of the sector of education, higher education, in trying to rescue or to alleviate the situation, but also to look towards the European and international institutions to help, because the representatives of the Ministry, of the NAVA agency and many other agencies, they show us how huge funds have been dedicated, not to mention universities themselves. Romantically, in a Polish way, they are doing the best they can to help. But this is the responsibility, at least of the international community, not to say global community, to help, to be together, to stand together and create new solutions, because it can't just rest on the Polish and Ukrainian shoulders to do good in this part of the world. So I'm emphasizing the word timing. It's extremely important.
And let me just quote maybe trivial anecdote. We're working with a university in Tokyo. Sometimes we visit one another. For a few years, we haven't had such visits. Recently, the president of that university decided that she really wanted to visit. It's a 30th anniversary, and we're doing fine. But what turned out, Madam President did want to visit Poland, Koźmiński University, but the hidden agenda was that she wanted to come to the Polish-Ukrainian border, to my favorite town, Przemyśl, to see what humanitarian aid looks like and what's the commitment and involvement. And this banal anecdote is an expression of the word timing as a strategic term. It's the perfect moment for us to demonstrate how important it is what's happening here in this part of the world. We need to show it to the whole world, because there are all kinds of situations that are continuing. There are still consequences of Brexit in Poland. There's raging, rampant inflation, which has a tremendous effect on the internationalization of higher education, especially students exchange. We have a, I don't want to say conflict, because it's not a conflict, but we have a something that we could say about destabilization with relations to Asia. Unwillingness to go to certain countries, unwillingness to start partnerships with certain countries and certain institutions, which means that the internationalization changes. Going down to micro scale, NAVA allowed Koźmiński to run the Spinnaker program, where we organized online courses in management and AI. And I'm delighted to tell you that over a dozen students from Ukrainian universities are participating in the program, because nothing gives freedom as much as competencies and education. And in our opinion, in my opinion, this is the greatest assistance we can provide to the Ukrainian nation. If we can help educate excellent young people, we will provide tools in rebuilding or recreating the country anew. This is our responsibility, notwithstanding tremendous humanitarian aid, and I agree with my excellent predecessor. We are writing strategies, we are establishing, forming teams, but then a moment comes when we all have to roll up our sleeves and start and get to work. Hard. And Koźmiński was, by the way, one of the first, was the first university, the first contact point in Warsaw. A week before the city started its reception point, from Medyka, where the arrivals reached Warsaw, they would get a phone call for Koźmiński University. And it sounds great now, but at the end of the day, it meant that in our library there was a kindergarten and sleeping beds. We had to find location for nearly 20 dogs, and weird gentlemen would arrive from various locations, starting strange questions, asking strange questions. We had to really keep our calm keep that fantastic social movement in order, and it ended well because we helped a lot of people. But the truth is that when we think about universities, we are thinking about the third mission. Forgive me to say this, but I think that the world can learn from Polish universities how to show usefulness to the public, because what was done for the Ukrainian society at every single university in Poland is something that we can really boast of without being too modest, because a lot of others could learn from us. Thank you. We're learning ourselves. We could teach maybe some others. And let's check on what we do, if we're doing it correctly. Let me say that the term refugee, thanks to what's happening here, is now being received in an entirely new way, thanks to what we do. And last but not least, I'd like to give the floor to our friend, Prorector of the Kharkiv University, Vasyl Karazin University, Professor Boris Samorodov. Thank you for being with us. And if I may, I know it's difficult, but what are your reflections? From everything that we're talking here, the heart, the friendship, the international cooperation, not only with Poland, does it allow you to persist, be optimistic and plan for the reconstruction of a university, not just your university, but universities after the war, which we believe will start soon. Rector Boris Samorodov, Professor Boris Samorodov.
Dear colleagues, dear friends, dear students, good day. Greetings from Kharkiv, Ukraine, from Karazin National University, and greetings from our rector, Professor Tatiana Kaganovska. It's too pity that she can't be with us today, but today be here, and it's very important to be here. And with the answer of your question, how the international relations helps us to still to be and still to teach our students. I need to say the next words about this. 24th of February 2022. Terrible situation, and we asking yourself, is this really, is this serious? It can't be, but the fact is, and it's we have terrible hours, days, months, year, and today we have more than a year of this war, and if I will tell you that it was normal and any panic, any terrible minds on first days, it's not true. It was boom in our heads, in our hearts. A few days we start to understand what should we do, what should we do, and it was several day pause for us. But starting from the first days of March, we start to be stronger. We start to understand that international society with us, and during these first days we start to receive a lot of emails with propositions for our students, for our staff, for our professors, for our students, and so on. And we start to understand that the life is going, and we should work hard, and we should understand where is our students, where is our professors, what can we do for our community, Karazin community, and for people from Kharkiv. And we organize a different ways for evacuation our people. And what do you think? The one of the oldest university in Ukraine. We have 28 years old. One of the biggest university in Ukraine and the biggest in the east part of Ukraine, and we can't think about close our doors. So we're still working, we're still in Kharkov, we're still in the center of Kharkov, and you know, there are two phrases in our university that Karazinsky with the Ukraine in the heart and educational against the war. So we thank you, we thank every Polish university. We thanks to all Polish people and for your government for that support that you give, not only for my university, Karazin University, for all the universities in Ukraine, for all the students in Ukraine, for all the professors and teachers. This is very important for us. And if we are talking about collaboration within the now within the project, our project. I think we have a lot of participants, but we talked today about maybe in the future we can organize online summer schools or winter schools. I mean, to involve the biggest amount of participants, because it's very important not only for our colleagues and students which live in Poland now in different cities. It's also very important for the people and our colleagues and students of all of the universities in Ukraine that lives in their cities, native cities, and for these peoples, it's very important to switch the picture and participate in some of project. And we understand that every project have a limited funding, and we also have a collection procedure, because we have the proposition or opportunity to choose one or two students or one or two academic staff, for example. But if we can organize together this in online, it will be very important for us, and there will be more participants from Ukraine, with that people who lives in Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and remember our support. Take care in the future. Szanowni Państwo, ja myślę, że charakter tego panelu
of this panel
jest tak specyficzny,
is
że raczej nie
so
będziemy otwierać
peculiar that we'll probably not open up a discussion. I'm sure everyone would like to take the floor in those subjects, which are so broad. But we decided that at the end, closing our discussion, we will ask each of the panelists to say 2-3 sentences that are of key importance and are associated with what's important now in the near future. Maybe a message. Director? Okay, I'll start then. The one thing that seems important for me in the course of this discussion is that I think that our ministry and the Ministry of Ukraine are in dialogue about a new bilateral agreement. What surprised us all was the adjustment of the legal system to the changes that took place from day one. Recently, there was a very fruitful meeting of craft team for Ukraine, because we are now thinking what's the most important thing from the beginning of the next academic year to introduce certain legal changes and solutions to systematize things that were temporary. For us, it is important to change certain legal regulations, so I'm asking all of our partners to come up with ideas. It's important that Poland and Ukraine are on their way to sign a bilateral agreement. A lot has changed, so thank you very much. Thank you. Rector Volodymyr Bugrow. Thank you very much.
Change not only law in Poland, but last year we see necessity to change Ukrainian law on higher education, Ukrainian law on finance of higher education, because the status of Ukraine as a candidate to European Union, we must have new law, new principles of financial autonomy of our universities, and Rectors Union and Karazin University, our university, Franco University, Mechnikov University as the biggest universities in Ukraine, now has planned to discuss with members of parliament about change of finance law in area of higher education. For example, we can't be a member of Alliance, European Universities Alliance, as a full member in European law, but we can't a member of Alliance as according to Ukrainian law. And now we want change our law and 1 year of war, because it is not conflict, as United Nations says or China says, it is Russian-Ukrainian war. And 1 year of war for our universities is 1 year of struggle for autonomy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Professor Berov.
Dear colleagues, thank you again. Thank you very much. And you know that fact that we have today during this event a lot of Ukrainian universities. I mean, representatives of Ukrainian universities and of Polish universities. It tells us about that your project and your activities is very important for us and for our international cooperation and collaboration. Thank you very much again. Slava Ukraini.
Thank you. Professor Agnieszka Kruczewska, proszę bardzo.
Ladies and gentlemen, for the first weeks we learned to function, then we learned to coordinate the support. Now it's time for us to become simply effective, and let's not be afraid of checking the effectiveness of the various tools and ideas that we have implemented. That's a reflection at institutional level. At the level of each and every one of us, let's not be afraid of being public intellectuals in Poland and worldwide. Tell the truth, talk, not be afraid to speak up. Let's hope it helps. Thank you. Professor Grzegorz Mazurek. What comes to my mind is a book by Naomi Klein, The Shock Doctrine. Briefly, in the normal world, there are many gears that have to grind for things to change. Let's treat what's happening, which is tragic, which is horrible, as a kind of opportunity for us. Doctrine of shock says that there are windows of opportunities when changes can suddenly be introduced quickly and efficiently. Let's hope they allow both Poland and Ukraine to enter a new level of development, especially in our area, education. Thank you.
Pani rektor Marta Kosiorka.
Rector Magda Kosiorka. Talking about the project and its name,
Losy Ukrainy i
The
Polski
fate
splatały
of
się
Ukraine
historycznie,
and
splatają się obecnie w
Poland have
teraźniejszości
been
i
interconnected
będą się
historically, are
splatały w
interconnected
przyszłości.
now, and will
Zatem
continue
przede
being
wszystkim
interconnected
postawmy
in the
na
future. First and
solidarność
foremost,
środowiska naukowego
we have to emphasize the
drugie,
solidarity of the academic
wspieranie
community
szeregów i
and
łączenie
also
sił
pull our
różnych
ranks
instytucji,
together and reinforce and
różnych
join
branży
forces
właśnie w
of various
przeciwdziałaniu
agencies and
kryzysowi,
institutions
ponieważ
from various
zatacza
backgrounds
coraz
in
większy
anti-crisis
Dziękuję
work.
bardzo.
Dziękujemy. Pan rektor Arkadiusz
Arkadiusz Mężyk. I just wanted to first and foremost thank all the rectors and members of the academia for their tremendous commitment in support activities and collaboration with the Ukrainian scientific community and the Polish Academy of Science, but also employees of the ministry and the agency for academic exchange, for being flexible in their activity, because thanks to the network of coordinators where we meet and resolve ongoing problems, we are able to find resolutions quite quickly, and the support programs prepared by NAVA meet our needs. This is very valuable, and this means that we are very efficient in those activities that we undertake. That situation demonstrated a tremendous potential in Polish universities, but also tremendous levels of empathy, and let's use it for future collaboration. I'd like to thank the rectors of Ukrainian universities for what you're doing, because supporting the university and science system in those very difficult conditions is admirable. Let's be ambassadors for scientific cooperation with Ukraine, Poland, But also integrate the European scientific community. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, members of the panel, especially our friends, rectors from Ukraine. I'd like to thank you for your interventions, for your words. And there is one reflection from this. Let's build a new deal. Let's build new international cooperation based on friendship. And let's get out of this tremendous crisis together. Building future. Slava Ukrainie.
Dziękuję bardzo. Thank you so much. Dziękuję bardzo. Dziękuję bardzo. No oczywiście oddaję.
Bardzo dziękujemy szanownym panelistkom.
Thank you very much to the panelists. And now it's time for a 20-minute coffee break, which will continue until 1:15, when we are going to begin a panel dedicated to the recognition of education.
20-minute coffee break. Let's meet again 1:15 p.m.
Dziękuję jeszcze raz.
Dziękujemy bardzo.